The blood moon hung overhead, dyeing the entire mirror lake maze in an eerie crimson. Mu Hanchuan was drenched in blood with no fewer than 10 severe wounds visible on his body. The grade void stomach armor he wore was in tatters, nearly destroyed, and his 2 remaining defensive shields had long been broken. Mustering the last shreds of strength, Mu Hanchuan smashed through the twisted mirror, blocking his path with a punch, then rolled out of the lake. Finally, he broke free from the eerie mirror lake maze. Behind him, 3 blood-red tentacles extending from the spiderweb-cracked mirror turned into a pile of black ash and fell. Thousands of mirrors standing on the lake buzzed simultaneously. The reflections in each mirror performed different actions. Some sprinted, some shot, some wielded weapons in battle, and some stared fixedly at Mu Hanchuan. One reflection even made a throat-slitting gesture toward him. Gasping for breath, Mu Hanchuan collapsed onto the smooth ground, his throat bobbing audibly as he swallowed. Inside the maze, one last female challenger held on. She was the strongest among the 330 participants from various races, but in the end, she could not survive the final test. As the last challenger in the mirror lake maze perished, all mirrors returned to normal and abruptly turned toward Mu Hanchuan in unison. Countless reflections of him appeared, and all of them simultaneously pointed their blood-red fingers at him. Mu Hanchuan felt his blood freeze and the hairs on the back of his neck stand on end. Then all the mirrors slowly sank, merging into the vast surface of the mirror lake. He had made it through. He had toughed it out with sheer physical endurance. Next time he encountered such a hidden level, he must be cautious and never enter recklessly. It was far too dangerous. He had used a blue star key to enter what was originally only a 3rd-tier blue level. A total of 330 life forms from various races entered, with humans accounting for about 10. The level was not difficult. 290 out of 330 participants passed quite easily. But then an unexpected turn threw every race into anxiety. When the blue level ended, the reward that should have appeared did not. Instead, an advanced level was triggered, requiring 2/3 of the participants to agree to enter the next red advanced level. This was a golden opportunity. A red star key was worth around 3 million, while a blue star key only 1 million. It was essentially free, though the danger would naturally increase. Over 200 of the remaining 290 agreed, so they naturally entered the red level. Then an unexpected twist. The red level's difficulty skyrocketed far beyond expectation. Unlike previous levels, this time, failure meant certain death. No one had foreseen this, otherwise many more would have voted against. Of the 290 participants, only 12 made it through. Over 95 died, an absolute horror. Whether it was sheer luck or death itself chasing them, it felt relentless. After passing again, no reward appeared. Instead, yet another hidden purple level was miraculously active. This is way over the top. Is it offering fortune or chasing us to death? Or is heaven about to bestow a great mission upon one of us? White, yellow, blue, red, purple, black. Purple is already the 2nd highest level after black. The difficulty was unimaginable. This time the remaining 12 participants hesitated for a long time. Who among them was not a genius to have passed? A purple star key was worth a staggering 10 million, and the rewards would naturally be rarer and more valuable. But only if one lived to claim them. If they didn't gamble, they would let go of this golden chance. If they did, maybe a bicycle could turn into a rocket. In the end, greed prevailed. 4 opposed, 8 agreed. Exactly 2/3 in favor, and the purple hidden level was unlocked. Among them, Mu Hanchuan voted against. Those bastards had trapped him. He was rational. This level of trial was not something they could handle now. Even 1 in 1,000 chance of survival was a luxury, if certain death was the norm. Mu Hanchuan wanted to curse, and he did curse, but it was useless, unable to change the outcome. Those idiots, seeking death and dragging him along. Ding. Purple hidden level passed. Unlock progress 15. Mission objective met. Survivors 1. A rewards issuing. Such a mere blue level with 330 participants, only he alone survived. Serves them right for being reckless. Why couldn't they have voted against like him? Reward 1. Obtained 1 blue star key, obtained 1 purple star key. He had used a blue star key to enter, so getting 1 back after clearing was normal. The surprise was the purple star key, worth at least 10 million on the market. However, Mu Hanchuan did not plan to sell it. He would keep it for future use. Such items were too rare and hard to obtain. In the future, when his strength was sufficient, he might not even be able to acquire one. As for now, attempting it was out of the question, and impossible anyway. Just like the purple level's unlock progress, the advanced red level was also Mu Hanchuan's first success, so its unlock progress was 15 as well. In other words, he would need to successfully clear the red level 4 more times before he could unlock the purple level. Only then could he gain entry, otherwise, even with the purple star key, it was useless. It simply wouldn't open. Reward 2. Attribute points increased 18. Due to insufficient mind attribute points, auto compensation applied. Physique 15, mind 3. While the purple level gave so many attribute points, almost comparable to the highest reward in team trials. The highest level he had ever participated in before was the 3rd tier blue. The maximum attribute point reward was 8, sometimes only 5, a gap of 10 points. How many attribute points would the final black level give? Strength 88, Physique 328, E rank 15, Agility 86, Mind 833, Equipment Void Stomach Armor, E rank Skills none 0 2 items, none 0 1 Brain Capacity Load 16, remaining 16. Damn, D rank requires 600 points. Physique just crossed 300, barely reaching E rank. With this 15-point reward, it's still only 343. I've worked hard for 3 years, barely scraping into E rank. When will I ever reach D rank? Mu Chuan was unusual. For some reason, every time he passed a level, the attribute point reward always went to Physique. The other attributes were all above 80 only because of a mandatory rule: the lowest attribute must not be less than 1/4 of the highest. Thus, awarded points had to be forcibly split to meet the requirement, otherwise his physique would be even higher. Mu Chuan had checked many records and consulted many people, but no one else was like him. Other people's attribute rewards leaned towards certain aspects based on their own qualities. Maybe strength, maybe physique, maybe a mix. But never did they all go into a single attribute. His peers who worked even harder had yet to reach E rank in any attribute. Most were around 100 points, roughly F rank. This was naturally Mu Chuan's advantage. If the matching rules inside the Prohibition Trial Star matched by total attribute points, he already had one attribute at E rank, while others were still F rank, crushing them. But Mu Chuan thought it wasn't absolute. This time several challengers were stronger than him, especially the human woman who held on to the very end, just a hair's breadth from success, only to die in the final steps. That was close. Without his special trait, a much higher defense and recovery than others, he would have died this time for sure, relying on pure tankiness to tough it out. Strength, agility, and mind are all nearly 100. Then they'll reach F rank and my strength will take another leap. What a damn mess. 3 years, and while his physique reached E rank, the other 3 haven't even reached F. He must be the only one in the world like this. Maybe not. What if there's someone else equally gifted? If they allocated all points to strength, wouldn't that be one force breaks all? Or if all points were in agility? They could just run all day, no one could catch them, or walk a nimble path with unbeatable reaction speed, making them impossible to hit. In fact, that could be another form of invincibility. Reward 3, skill reward transfer S rank. Mu Chuan's pupils dilated, blood rushed backward, and he shot up like a spring. Strength skill. What wounds? What worries? Everything at this moment was insignificant. Requirement: no attribute point requirement, no rank requirement. Brain capacity load demand 15. Function: transfer a marked object to your current location. Markable objects 07 condition: must mark the target object in advance, can mark up to 7 targets. Rank: additional death contract every 3 months, forced to enter the Prohibition Trial Star once, participate in a life and death battle. Opponent race random strength based on your combat power before the previous death battle. And strength skill? How is this possible? As far as he knew, to obtain a combat-type strength skill, one had to enter the Black Gate, which was as difficult as reaching heaven. But what was happening now? Mu Chuan racked his brains, unable to understand. The only possibility was that this strength skill migration was not a combat type, but an auxiliary-type strength skill, which had a slight chance of appearing in the Purple Gate. On the Yingling planet, over the past 3 years, across 5 continents, 47 countries, plus other special regions, with a total population exceeding 8 billion, countless millions had entered the Forbidden Trial Star to challenge stages, yet only one strength skill had ever appeared. It was said that someone from Chinese state on the Xingsu continent had obtained it, which caused a worldwide sensation. Mu Chuan formed a conjecture perhaps that strength was also an auxiliary type, one not necessarily from the Black Gate, but like him obtained by sheer luck in the Purple Gate. The rank was intimidating, but the ability didn't seem that powerful. If he put it up for auction, how much could it fetch? Would he even need to work hard for the rest of his life? Instinctively, he looked at the requirements column. That was the most important part. If he couldn't learn it, what was the point of keeping it? It was fine not looking, but when he did, he was almost scared to death. Requirements: no stat point requirement, no level requirement, brain domain load requirement 15. What the hell? Are you sure you're not messing with me? Mu Chuan looked at the only piece of equipment left on him, the Void Stomach Armor E rank. Void Stomach Armor E rank. Defense strength maximum impact 4,000 joules, additional 10 damage absorption. Wear requirement E rank. Stat point requirement physique 200, strength 80. Durability 7. Severely damaged, urgently needs repair. I'm screwed. Even in a rank equipment has such high requirements, but in strength skill only has a brain domain load requirement. Mu Chuan had received skill rewards before, but he sold them. He remembered one was Spiderweb Imprisonment Frank Control type, with requirements mind 100, agility 80, brain domain load 3. Back then he couldn't use it at all, and even now he still couldn't. His mind stat hadn't reached 100. And this was just in Frank skill? Yet now this strength skill had such low learning requirements. It completely shattered Mu Chuan's worldview. Didn't this mean that he, a mere rank, could learn it right now? Mu Hanchuan's heart pounded wildly. It would be a lie to say he wasn't excited. His inner self urged him to learn it immediately, not to mention this being an strength skill. Even if it were just a rank or brank, the learning conditions alone would be enough to attract countless big shots to contend for it. If he sold it, he would become as rich as a country overnight, but whether he could keep it was another matter. If he wanted to learn, he only needed to exert a little force with his finger, and he would own in strength skill. He would become a weakling within strength skill. How much his strength would increase was unknown, but it would certainly be a massive boost. Mu Hanchuan clutched this strength skill tightly, his heart torn. His fingertips almost dug into his palm, yet he felt nothing. This skill was not just a skill. It represented endless wealth and the key to changing his destiny. However, this key was too heavy, suffocatingly so. Mu Hanchuan slowly closed his eyes and images of familiar, yet extremely unfamiliar faces surfaced in his mind. He had parents, grandparents, maternal grandparents, yet the only person he considered close was a stranger with no blood relation. This was the path he had chosen himself. Since he chose it, he would not regret it. Huff. Mu Hanchuan made his decision. One's own destiny must always be held in one's own hands. Even the closest kin could not be relied upon. The next instant, he decisively crushed the migration scroll. Ding. Requirements met. Strength skill migration. Strength 88. Physique 328, rank 15. Agility 86. Mind 833. Equipment void stomach armor, rank. Skills migration strength 12. Items none 01. Brain domain load 16, remaining 1. Well then. So it was learned just like that. The brain domain load was drained to only 1. Even the lowest frank skill required 2 load, so he couldn't learn any other skills for a while. He could only wait for his mind to gradually increase, slowly pulling up the brain domain load. Of course, modern technology also had ways to boost brain domain load like special reagents or synthetic drugs, but Mu Hanchuan dared not and would never easily try them. The rapid technological development over the past century had all relied on discoveries and explorations from the Forbidden Trial Star, which were far from mature. Who knew what side effects there might be? There would certainly be damage to the body, as well. Mu Hanchuan was absolutely not going to take that risk. As for this Forbidden Trial Star, it had appeared 99 years ago, not only on the human planet, but across the entire galaxy they were in. Such power, according to legend, could only be achieved by a civilization of at least level 5. It was said that on that extremely special day, the whole world was enveloped in a black curtain. Everything seemed to be pressed on a pause button. A long line of subtitles appeared in everyone's mind. After reading those subtitles, nearly half of humanity on the planet almost went insane. From this moment onward, the Cheong Galaxy G4279 Trial Galaxy Civilization Level 0.5 Primitive officially commences the trial war. Participating intelligent civilizations 77. Participating planets, all within the Cheong Galaxy. Trial ground Forbidden Trial Star Forbidden Star Ring Forbidden Trial Star Civilization Level 2nd Tier Broken Civilization Relic. Trial objective: by any means, any method, eliminate all other intelligent civilizations in the Cheong Galaxy, occupy all planets in the galaxy, and the sole surviving race becomes the victor. All other failed intelligent races will be completely erased from the galaxy. Failed inferior races have no right to continue existing. The sole victorious race will be recognized by the Obelisk Civilization Alliance, eligible to integrate into the alliance, and will fully own the rights to this star domain. The human planet was forced into this trial, and not winning meant extinction. The extinction of the entire race. How could they not go mad? So besides humans, there were 76 other intelligent civilizations in this galaxy. How many more races without intelligence or civilization were there? This Cheong Galaxy might be far larger than humans imagined. After that, every youth reaching the age of 18, regardless of gender, would receive a White Star Key. This White Star Key was the key to entering the Forbidden Trial Star. Of course, you could choose not to enter and sell it. Whoever got the key could enter the star with no difference. The White Star Key was worth as much as 5,000 credits. It was simply a heaven-sent Kamingafage gift, enough seed money for a lifetime. Mu Hanchuan had run away from home at the age of 5, wandering around begging, scavenging from trash cans, competing with cats and dogs for food. At 13, he was taken in by a street performer, learned some performance skills, and barely survived until he was 18. Only then did he enter the Forbidden Trial Star to defy fate. Before 18, he couldn't enter, nor could he use any trial equipment, skills, or items. Class additional death contract: forced to enter the Jin Duan Shi Lianxing once every 3 months to participate in a life or death battle. The opponent's race is random, and their strength is based on your combat power from the previous death battle. Mu Hanchuan looked at this death contract, pondering silently. Since he had already learned it, regrets were useless. He might as well study this skill thoroughly. This must be the side effect of this class. Forced to participate in a death battle every 3 months. Isn't this forcing you to strive? If you don't strive, you die. Fortunately, the next opponent's strength is based on the combat power at the end of this death battle, leaving 3 months for you to grow. In the later stages, 3 months may not amount to much and improvement might not be significant. But in the early stages, it is very crucial. If handled well, the improvement in combat power can be very significant. Perhaps during this time one might even step into the next level. With his own tankiness, Mu Hanchuan was confident to survive the first 10 years. After that, it depends on fate. It's time to go back. From now on I am also a supernova with its class skill though no one knows. Mu Hanchuan, keep it up. There are 2 ways to return. One is to go back to the original point of entry, and the other is to return to a random area within a 20-kilometer radius of the entry point. Mu Hanchuan decisively chose the first option. Whoosh. When he reappeared, Mu Hanchuan was back in his underground secret base. The surroundings were dim with only a few emergency lights emitting a faint glow. This was built by Mu Hanchuan after earning some spare money with great effort, located underground of a small hill. In front of the hill was a large river, and on the river were 2 large bridges with heavy traffic. Behind the hill was a fairly large park with considerable foot traffic. People lingered there at all hours, even late at night, making it an excellent cover. Initially, Mu Hanchuan considered building the secret base in a desolate mountain, but after careful consideration, he abandoned the idea. That would be too conspicuous. If not discovered, fine, but if someone stumbled upon it a few times, it would surely arouse suspicion. Here there was no such concern. He could come to the park even late at night. Who could stop him? The underground secret base was not large, with 2 bedrooms, a living room, a kitchen, and a bathroom, totaling less than 60 square meters. One room was the bedroom, and the other was a storage room for equipment and various sundries. It contained not only equipment and items obtained from the Jin Duan Shilian Xing, but also some weapons created by modern technology. The small kitchen stored a considerable amount of food and water. No electronic devices were turned on in the base to avoid being tracked or detected. This was the hiding place Mu Hanchuan used each time he entered the Jin Duan Shilian Xing. It was very simple, with safety as the primary goal. As soon as he returned, Mu Hanchuan took off his heavy equipment and tattered clothes, entered the bedroom, took out medicine to clean himself. Why not in the living room? Because there was no place to lie down. After treating his injuries, though extremely tired, he felt no trace of sleepiness. His mind was still in a state of extreme excitement. It was impossible to rest well now. He quickly tried out this glass skill, hoping it wasn't a dud, otherwise he would be truly screwed. Mu Hanchuan grabbed the medicine box on the bedside table and secretly activated the skill. He thought it would be difficult, but it turned out to be extremely simple. As soon as he activated it, 2 options appeared. Mark. Cancel. Mu Hanchuan directly clicked mark. Mark successful. Markable item 17. There was a clear instruction in his mind, and then the specific location of the medicine box appeared in his mind. Mu Hanchuan became interested. He threw the medicine box on the bed and walked to the living room. He activated the skill again. There was nothing to choose from, only one item was marked. Mu Hanchuan selected that medicine box. The next moment, the medicine box disappeared from the bedroom and materialized in his hand. Amazing. Mu Hanchuan was extremely excited. This was definitely a spatial skill, an alternative version of spatial skill. Each time he entered the Jin Duan Shilian Xing, he was only allowed to carry 3 pieces of equipment plus 1 item. Whether equipment or items, they must be produced within the Jin Duan Shilian Xing. But it doesn't have to be obtained by oneself. One can also borrow or buy them on the market. Items are divided into active items and auxiliary items. Active items are those that can be used in combat and actively released. Auxiliary items include durability, repair kits, medical packs, food boxes, etc. These must also be produced from the Jin Duan Shilian Xing, but only one type can be carried each time entering the trial star. This time, when entering the Jin Duan Shilian Xing, Mu Hanchuan carried the durability from auxiliary items which he used on his void stomach armor E-class, otherwise it would have been destroyed long ago. As for all equipment, medicine, food, etc., from the real world, anything that could potentially affect combat power cannot be brought into the Jin Duan Shilian Xing. Now that he had this glass spatial skill, could he mark items directly in the real world and then teleport them after entering the Jin Duan Shilian Xing. In that case, other participants could only carry 3 pieces of equipment and 1 item, while he would have 11. Mu Hanchuan thought it was feasible, because this was a reward from the Jin Duan Shilian Xing itself. If it couldn't teleport items into the Jin Duan Shilian Xing, what use would it be? Yes, equipment and items produced from the Jin Duan Shilian Xing definitely work. The only uncertainty was whether it could teleport real-world items. If it could, he would definitely get a heavy-duty Gatling gun teleported over and mow down all dissenters. He continued to test. Mu Hanchuan ran to another room and marked a shield, one of his main equipment pieces produced from the Jin Duan Shilian Xing. He ran back to the living room, and the next second the shield appeared directly in his hand. Damn awesome. In future fights, he wouldn't need to bring anything, just mark in advance and summon directly. It would be all about surprise. Even if the sneak attack didn't kill, it would scare the other to death. Mu Hanchuan then marked several items, a wine glass, a bottle of wine. He skipped larger items for fear of being discovered. Mark successful markable items 47, he changed into a set of clothes wrapping himself tightly, then took his phone and left the underground secret base. The way out was not complicated, just using the visual illusion of people. Of course the entrance was also somewhat concealed. Leaving the hill he arrived at the nearby park. Mu Hanchuan randomly found a vacant lawn. He reached his right hand into his clothes, and a bottle of wine and a wine glass appeared in his hand at the same time. He put down the wine glass, lay on the lawn, and drank directly from the bottle. These test items were all small objects. He wondered what the maximum volume of items that could be teleported was. There must be a limit, otherwise one could teleport an entire planet. There were probably many restrictions inside, needing to be explored slowly step by step. He opened his phone to check if there were any messages in the past few days. Mu Hanchuan had few friends, so there were only a few messages. Several of them were from his married adoptive sister. Should be considered an adoptive sister, right? He skipped these messages and looked at the last one from 3 days ago. Mu, a boss, is chartering a car, generous with spending. Entering a team trial at the end of the month. Come over and talk if you're free. The end of the month. Today is only the 14th, with half a month left, which should be enough to recover about 80% of my health. Ordinary star keys only allow entry into solo trials twice a month, at any time, as long as it's within the month. Special silver and gold star keys grant entry into team trials. Silver for up to 5 people and gold for up to 20. Regardless of the type, one can only choose one of them per month and enter once. These team trials naturally offer richer rewards primarily because they provide a greater chance of obtaining exploration trials, which in turn offer higher opportunities to acquire materials, resources, technology, secret manuals, and more from advanced civilizations on the trial star. If luck strikes even once and you manage to get your hands on some rare oddity, you might just strike it rich. If the ancestors bless you and you stumble upon a potion formula or high-tech blueprint, you could directly establish a vast fortune or sell it for a sky-high price. In the new era, many families and powers have risen to prominence in this way. It is known that after a century, only 10 of the entire Forbidden Trial star has been explored, leaving the remaining 90 shrouded in mystery. This includes not just humans, but all races across the entire Dome Galaxy combined. Only 10. The Forbidden Trial star is merely a second-grade shattered lost civilization. If one were to encounter a more advanced civilization, it is unimaginable to what heights it might have ascended. 2 ordinary solo trials and 1 group trial. Each month, only these 3 trial checkpoints can be. Opportunities are rare. If conditions permit, one must complete all of them every month, because most of the attribute point rewards that support your growth come from these trials. At least that was the case for Mu Hanchuan. It wasn't that there were no other avenues, but they were too expensive and he was too poor to afford them. Solo trials were manageable. As long as you cleared them, you generally get a checkpoint star key as a reward. The real challenge was the team trial. Silver star keys were not easy to come by, with market prices ranging from 3 to 5 million each, depending on market conditions. For independent cultivators like them, pooling resources to get one was too difficult. Even if 5 people shared the cost, each would have to spend at least 6,000. Doing it once a month was fine, but month after month, who could afford that? The best approach was to find a boss to charter the team. Chartering meant 4 skilled and reputable independent cultivators teaming up to carry one person. It didn't guarantee a 100 clearance, but they had to ensure the boss survived. If the boss died, what was the point of the charter? In such arrangements, the boss usually provided the star key, and the 4 fighters handled the work. Rewards were based on performance. Merely ensuring survival meant no extra rewards. Only if trial rewards were obtained would the boss give additional monetary tips. The higher the trial rewards, the greater the monetary tips afterward. Bosses weren't too particular about skill or equipment rewards. Except for special items, most could be bought. What they truly sought were attribute point rewards. There were only a few opportunities each month to gain attribute points. Solo trials were too dangerous for them, and they lacked the skill. Thus, the monthly team trial became the most reliable chance to earn attribute points. Of course, these people who took on bosses' jobs also had to pay a deposit. The amount varied. The higher the rewards promised by the boss, the higher the deposit. If the boss died on the trial star, the deposit was forfeited. Not only would it damage one's reputation, but it might also invite retaliation. The risks were considerable. Mu Hanchuan had only taken on 2 such jobs, so he was still a novice. His teamwork with this group was quite harmonious and his strength was recognized by them. If he had been any weaker, they wouldn't have approached him. This was a life or death matter, not a game. He would go check out the team at Whitebone's place tonight. If the team's strength was decent, head, take the job. If not, head, pass, given his serious injuries. Even the void armor grade might not be fully repaired within half a month. His phone vibrated with the faintest sound. Mu Hanchuan had set it to the lowest level with no ringtone. He pulled out his phone. It was a call from Chailong. Chailong was a classmate from when Mu Hanchuan was 12 in middle school. They had only been in the same class for a year and barely spoke. They happened to meet again in this small city when Mu Hanchuan was 19 and became close. He was one of Mu Hanchuan's few friends and the only one who knew his true identity. Chailong's father worked as an intermediary specializing in connecting buyers and sellers of equipment and skills from the Forbidden Trial Star earning commissions. He had a large network of trial takers and buyers, valuable resources. Chailong was idle, but not a bad person. With nothing better to do, he chose to follow in his father's footsteps, and Mu Hanchuan was his biggest client. Mu Hanchuan had him handle all equipment and skills obtained from the Forbidden Trial Star that were useless to him, charging a 10 fee, a friend's price. For outsiders, it would be 15 or 20. Truth be told, Mu Hanchuan wasn't deliberately favoring him. He valued his father's connections. Some troublesome matters were beyond Chailong's ability to handle, but his father had the means. In his entire life, Mu Hanchuan had only received 2 years of formal schooling, not counting the elite education he received as a child. At age 7, he was taken back by his biological grandfather. That year he was very obedient, but barely spoke. In just 1 year, Mu Hanchuan learned to recognize all the characters and acquired all the basic knowledge that would be useful for his future. Then he ran away. At 12, he was caught again by his maternal grandfather. To prevent another escape, his grandfather assigned a dedicated minder and even fitted him with a tracking anklet. That year he was also very obedient, but not in his studies. Instead, he poured all his energy into researching the Forbidden Trial Star, everything about it. What creatures lived there? What vegetation grew there? What minerals existed? Which were edible? Which were poisonous? How to survive? Everything was his focus of study. This was the only opportunity before he turned 18 to gain an in-depth understanding, and he had to seize it. Once he left, such chances would be rare. Mu Hanchuan worked tirelessly day and night until he thoroughly understood all known discoveries about the Forbidden Trial Star. This proved immensely beneficial for his resolve to venture into the Forbidden Trial Star at 18. Having achieved his goal at 13, Mu Hanchuan, who had been playing the role of a good boy, ran away again, even with the tracking anklet proving useless. Chailong was his classmate from that year, at 12 a schoolmate for 1 year. "Hey Hanchuan, have you been up there again? I couldn't reach you for so long." Chailong didn't say it explicitly to avoid being monitored, but both understood what up there meant, the trial star. "You just got back not long ago. They'll drop by your place when I have time." "Sure." Chailong was pleased, as it meant Mu Hanchuan had more goods to hand over to him. After discussing business, Chailong moved on to other topics. "Hanchuan, be careful lately, and stay home more." "Why, oi? My dad got word from Tianlan City that your family has been secretly looking for you these days. Something must have happened. Why else would they look for you now after all these years? And they're doing it discreetly. Looking for me." Mu Hanchuan frowned, deeply puzzled. After all these years, only his grandfather had taken him back when he was 7, and they hadn't bothered with him since. What was going on? Was someone seriously ill and needed him to donate bone marrow? Or was there something else? It certainly wasn't to have him inherit the family business. "Yeah, I feel like it's a big deal. Be careful." If Mu Hanchuan weren't his biggest client, how could his father have passed on this information? "All right, thanks. No problem. We're brothers." Hanging up, Mu Hanchuan fell into a long silence. The Mu family into which he was born was one of the 4 great clans in Tianlan City, the capital of Luo Province. Luo Province ranked 3rd in the nation's total economic output, so Tianlan City naturally thrived. The Mu family had substantial influence with assets definitely in the tens of billions. His mother's family, the Zhou clan, was rooted in Fuxian City, the capital of Biling Province in the west. Though Biling Province ranked only 12th among the 19 provinces and municipalities of the Qinghuang Empire, with a moderate economic scale, the Zhou family's overall strength was in no way inferior to the Mu family's. Indeed, it was even stronger. As one of the 3 major powers in Biling Province, it had developed even more rapidly under the leadership of his eldest uncle in recent years. Sai. His family background was by no means poor. He should never have fallen to such a state. All of this was due to his eccentric parents. His father, as the eldest son of the Mu family and the next successor, was inherently proud and arrogant. The other female lead, as the second daughter of the Zhou family, was even more self-willed and possessed a strong desire for control. When these two were in love, it was a passionate and inseparable affair. No one could tear them apart. They would sacrifice everything for love. But once a crisis hit their relationship and they began to quarrel, it was like mountains crumbling and the earth splitting, a volcanic eruption that nothing could contain. Their personalities had long since determined that neither would ever back down. And so a few years later, his proud father grew too comfortable with his easy life, lost the initial novelty of his beautiful mother, and grew weary of her constraints. He took a sweet, obedient young mistress outside. Taking a mistress was not such a big deal for a man of his standing. What was a little affair? The trouble came when Mu Hanchuan's overbearing mother discovered it. This was the end. It was truly the end. Without a word, his mother did not quarrel or make a scene. That very day, she sent people to deal with it. No threats, no intimidation, just directly eliminating the source of the problem. The outcome was less than satisfactory. The mistress had 2 bodyguards assigned to her, allowing her to escape. It turned out she was pregnant, and the father had specially arranged for her protection. And this was not her first child. 2 years earlier, she had already given birth to a daughter. It was clear that Mu Hanchuan's father cared for this young mistress, otherwise he would not have let her bear his children. Now the conflict erupted completely. Zhou Muning fled that very night, taking nothing with her. Everyone assumed she was returning to her maiden home to seek justice from the Zhou family. But unexpectedly, her way of handling things was extraordinarily unique, dazzling everyone's eyes, and equally stabbing Mu Hanchuan himself. The next day, Zhou Muning publicly appeared at the Yang family, the same city rival of the Mu family, and one of the 4 great clans of Tianlan City. She openly declared that she would become the mistress of the Yang household, as Yang Yes woman. This declaration shocked all of Tianlan City, drew the attention of the entire Luo province, and even made the national front page headlines. Just yesterday, she was the eldest daughter-in-law of the Mu family in Tianlan City. Today, she became the mistress of the Mu family's arch-rival, the Yang family of Tianlan City. What the hell? The key point was that she was still legally married to Mu Qiming. A married woman, a member of the upper-class aristocratic families, had no regard for face and dared to act so recklessly. This was a flagrant trampling of the Mu family's honor. It was also a disgrace to her own Zhou family. The Mu and Yang clans were both powerful families in Tianlan City, bound by deep enmity. Now, because of a woman, the level of hatred had deepened by several orders of magnitude. It was said that the one who had pursued Zhou Muning most fiercely and earnestly was not Mu Qiming, but Yang Yu himself. Yet in the end, Zhou Muning chose the more appealing Mu Qiming. Who would have thought that after all these twists and turns this would be the outcome? Regardless, Yang Yu had finally won the beauty. For Zhou Muning, he even canceled the engagement that had been arranged for him only half a year ago. The Yang family had gone to great lengths to persuade Yang Yu into accepting that engagement. Now, thanks to the meddling of Zhou Muning, it was all ruined. Back then, because of her, their precious son had been depressed for several years and refused to look for a woman. Now again, because of her, he had abandoned his fiancée. She was a curse. Zhou Muning might not care about her reputation, but the Yang family did. Amidst a chorus of condemnation and strong opposition from the Yang family, Zhou Muning indeed became the mistress of the Yang household. Opposition was futile. Yang Yu was fixated on her. For her sake, he was willing to make all sorts of promises to his family. Never before had he been so obedient. In the end, the Yang family had to accept it. What could they do? Yang Yu was stubborn, fixated on this curse of a woman. Besides, the Yang family was not afraid of the Mu family. They were already sworn enemies. A little more hatred made little difference. In the end, the most humiliated was not the Yang family, but the Mu family. At worst, both sides would suffer together, injuring the enemy by 100 while suffering 99 of one's own. A slight net gain. Only a year later, Zhou Muning gave birth to a second child, a son, but not of the Mu family, it was of the Yang family. That year, Mu Hanchuan had just turned 5. His originally happy and perfect life was suddenly shattered by a catastrophe. Family broken, home destroyed. This was even more innocent than a sudden disaster. Being precocious, he saw through it all and remained remarkably calm, displaying a silence far beyond his age. His current identity was somewhat awkward. Even he himself could hardly bear to look at it. Just one day later, Mu Qiming retaliated by bringing his kept mistress into the family, elevating her from a concubine to the legitimate wife, a meteoric rise. The 2-year-old daughter they had together became the young miss of the Mu family. It was said that the child in her womb was a boy. The Mu family had an heir. Mu Hanchuan felt relieved. His own superfluous existence seemed to no longer matter. With just a single thought flashing through his mind, he made the decision not to return to the Mu family. He cared not for the consequences, nor for gains or losses. He was that resolute. In this respect, he might have inherited his mother's traits. Without returning to the Mu family, little Mu Hanchuan chose his own path. He left Tianlan City and began wandering, managing to survive until he turned 18. Mu Hanchuan sat alone on the grass, draining the bottle of wine in one gulp. Now 21 years old, and having achieved a measure of success, he had worked hard for 3 years, escaping the grasp of death several times. His efforts had finally paid off. He had obtained this great teleportation skill. His future was bound to be even more brilliant, stepping into a new phase. Everything was worth it. What could the Mu family amount to? The total assets of the entire Mu family could not compare to the value of this single great skill. Perhaps this was the will of heaven. An hour later, disguised and masked, Mu Hanchuan appeared in Box 7 of an underground bar in the west. There was nothing mysterious about it. This was a publicly known intermediary hub for trial participants. The entire place had no surveillance, and the surrounding area was an old urban district with complex terrain, making escape easy. Inside the box were 3 individuals, 2 men and 1 woman, all also disguised. For people like them, the first priority was always to conceal their identities to avoid unnecessary trouble. They communicated using code names. Mu Hanchuan's code name was simply Mu. After glancing at them, Mu Hanchuan decided to stay, as each possessed formidable strength and was highly skilled. Did you just come out of a personal trial? The speaker was a tall man, nearly 1.9 meters, around 30 years old, codenamed Whitebone. He was a strength-based assault type, with an A-level strength attribute conservatively estimated at over 400 points, possibly nearing the 600-point level threshold. He was the organizer and the team leader for entering the trial star. Mu Hanchuan's injuries were severe and easily noticeable. Whitebone offered him a cigarette case. Mu Hanchuan declined. He never smoked, no matter the location, as it could leave traces and risk exposure. Whitebone didn't insist and put the case away. Any issues with the end of the month? There was no need for idle chatter. He cut straight to the point. None. Mu Hanchuan had completed his 2 personal trials for the month in the first half, leaving only recuperation. With his recovery rate reaching 80% in half a month was no problem. Good. We'll tentatively set it for the end of the month. The exact entry time will be announced later. Mu, did you get anything good from the personal trial? Anything I can use? The only woman in the box stepped forward, her fragrance wafting along. Her code name was Midnight Black Tea, around 25 years old, 1.7 meters tall. She always liked to flaunt her fair, translucent skin. Her face was covered, so its appearance was unknown, but with such a figure and delicate complexion, she couldn't be unattractive, stirring fantasies. Nothing special. Hey, if you find something good, make sure to save it for your little sister. She poured 2 glasses of wine and handed one to Mu Hanchuan. Of course, women were poisonous, especially this one. She was a close combat agile assassin. Mu Hanchuan didn't take the glass, deliberately keeping his distance. Midnight Black Tea followed a strength plus agility path. Her strength was certainly a level, though whether her agility had reached a level was unknown. Midnight Black Tea was unfazed by his reaction. This man was simply dull. If he really wanted to take advantage, would she let him? Still, his strength was genuinely impressive and reliable. When Whitebone suggested recruiting him, she was the first to agree. She had long suspected that Mu was young. To possess such power at his age, his family background must be notable, perhaps similar to hers, out for some adventure. The last person was a man in black, drinking alone in the corner. He was 1.75 meters tall, lean, codenamed Black Feather, a speed-based ranged combatant tasked with reconnaissance and long-range firepower. He followed an agility plusman route. His agility was certainly a level, but his mind attribute was unknown. This man was quite withdrawn, rarely speaking. Whitebone continued, this time the employer is a young lady, reportedly a support class. That's good news for us. When they took on this job, the most critical factor was that the employer would be cooperative. No need for excessive effort, just the ability to keep up and not hold them back. The worst were those with too many ideas and a penchant for showing off, which made everything a nightmare. During their last collaboration, they had a young master who could do almost nothing, only hiding during battles, relying entirely on the 4 of them to get through. That was manageable. At least he knew to hide and didn't cause trouble. They'd heard tales of overly brave ones who charged into every fight, first forcing them to follow suit, making things unbearable. Even worse were those who liked to give reckless orders and sulked if ignored, dragging the whole team into a gloomy, almost depressive atmosphere. This time it was a female support class, ideal. Such types usually weren't erratic, could assist them and greatly reduce the team's burden. Whitebone added, but the deposit this time is steep, 8 million per person. We must ensure the young lady returns unharmed, or the deposit won't be refunded. What's our profit? Mu Hanchuan wasn't concerned about the deposit. He was confident he could protect the young lady as long as she didn't cause trouble, but the reward had to be proportional. In addition to providing a silver key card for us to enter the team trial, there's extra compensation based on our clearance results, up to 6 million per person. Even just ensuring her safe return nets each of us 1 million. Mu Hanchuan nodded slightly. The reward was decent, a fair price. Everyone risked their lives, and no one would take on a job with too low a return. If you're agreeable, we'll finalize it and won't look for anyone else. Once confirmed, no backing out. Use these 2 weeks to recover fully and don't jeopardize our mission. Whitebone's tone turned noticeably stern, carrying a warning. He had specifically sought out Mu Hanchuan, hiring him for this job based on his strength and reputation. He didn't want any mishaps to tarnish his own credibility. Especially with Mu, they had only worked together once when no one else was available and through an intermediary. He hadn't expected much, but the man's strength turned out to be genuinely impressive with solid resilience. That's why he was recruited again, though they weren't very familiar, so caution was warranted. The intermediary who introduced Mu Hanchuan was Chai Long's father, who knew Mu Hanchuan's abilities well. He wanted Mu Hanchuan to network with these young elites to broaden his horizons and enhance his strength, enabling him to tackle higher-level trials. After all, Mu Hanchuan was one of his son's few quality clients, and such favors built goodwill. Don't worry, I won't be a problem. In the past, he never held the team back. Now with his strength transfer skill, even less so. On the trial star, each entry allowed only 3 pieces of equipment and 1 item card, but he was different. Barring accidents, he could transfer 7 extra items. Who could he fear? Excellent. Then this team trial is set. No one is allowed to withdraw. Hand over the deposit now. I'll send the profiles of the 4 of us, plus the young lady 2 days before the entry. Any questions? Midnight Black Tea giggled, of course not. The man in the corner echoed, no problem. Mu Hanchuan naturally had good. White Bone raised his glass. To a bountiful return. The other 2 raised theirs. Mu Hanchuan made a gesture, but didn't drink. With matters settled, each went their separate ways. This was merely an initial meeting to confirm the team. Detailed discussions, tactics, and equipment allocation would occur 2 or 3 days before entry with the employer present, ensuring no mistakes. Qingling City, the capital of the Qinghuang Kingdom. Though merely a city-level entity, it is a super metropolis ranking second in economic output among the kingdom's 17 provinces and 2 special grade cities, and serves as the political and cultural center of the Qinghuang Kingdom. The Su family, a top 3 political powerhouse in Qingling City, was holding a very serious small family meeting in the main branch. Qingyu has come of age. The Mu family should give us, the Su family, an explanation. They had originally planned for Mu Hanchuan and Su Qingyu, the youngest daughter of the Su family, to officially hold an engagement ceremony at this age, announcing the alliance to the outside world. However, the Mu family situation seemed somewhat complicated. The Su family felt that publicizing this engagement would be embarrassing. Father, I specifically investigated. Mu Hanchuan hasn't been in the Mu family for years. Ever since Zhou Muning left the Mu family and followed Yanyu, their son, also left the Mu family and has been wandering alone outside. He was caught and brought back twice, but he escaped both times. It was Su Han, the eldest daughter of the Su family, who replied. She was puzzled. As the legitimate eldest son of the Mu family, why would Mu Hanchuan run away? How old was Mu Hanchuan back then? She didn't believe he truly wanted to run away, or it was more likely he was forced out, and the key factor lay within the Mu family itself. Not a single person in that family is normal. What good could their son possibly be? This marriage must be called off. Daiwan was irritated. Her youngest daughter was a stunning beauty, well-educated, gentle, and graceful. How could she be stuck with such a marriage? No matter what, it had to be cancelled. What could the insignificant Mu family possibly say? The gap between the 2 families was too great. They weren't worthy of the Su family. Things aren't that simple. Daiwan grew even angrier. Suze, what do you mean? With such a family and such a person, you still want our Qingyu to marry into that? The mother was hot-tempered, while Suze, the head of the family, remained calm. He patiently explained, the insignificant Mu family is naturally not a concern, but this engagement was personally arranged by the 2 families' patriarchs, who signed a marriage contract and had several other respected elders bear witness. It cannot be broken so easily. The patriarchs have passed away, and besides, the problem lies with the Mu family themselves. What does it have to do with us? The responsibility should be entirely theirs. You can't say that. The 2 patriarchs are gone, but our great-grandmother is still alive. She won't allow us to break the contract for no reason, lest it escalate and damage the patriarch's reputation. More importantly, when the engagement was made, both families had their own calculations. Generally speaking, our family has actually gained more benefits, and the advantages have been even greater over the years. Therefore, unless absolutely necessary, our Su family cannot be the first to break the promise. Su-han understood clearly. So we need to make the Mu family take the initiative to break the engagement. No need to rush. Qingyu is only a junior in college, still young. There are plenty of opportunities. But we can start putting some pressure on the Mu family. Hearing this, Daiwan's mood instantly improved. Su-han quickly understood. Then he'll go to the Mu family. Suze thought for a moment. Take Qingyu with you. As the person involved, she should go in person. Yes, father. This was good too. It would let her sister experience the outside world and meet more people. She had been too sheltered, completely unaware of the dangers outside. If she married in the future, how could she manage the household and be the mistress? Soft, warm yellow light spilled over a corner of the living room. As the female protagonist of this conversation, Su Qingyu sat quietly there, her hands gently folded on her knees, her black hair cascading like silk over her shoulders. She lowered her head slightly, her long lashes gently drooping, her eyes like stars, deep and bright, exuding a feminine tenderness. She offered no opinion, simply sitting there in silence. Seeing Su Qingyu like this, her mother inexplicably felt a surge of anger. How could a prominent family like the Su family raise such an innocent, naive sweetheart? She was completely different from her elder sister, as if they weren't born from the same mother. If she really married into such a family, wouldn't she be devoured down to the bone? Frustrated at her daughter's lack of backbone, Daiwan found the sight infuriating and left directly. Out of sight, out of mind, leaving Su-han to teach her properly. Suze, on the other hand, didn't think his younger daughter's nature was bad. It was her innate disposition, a Y-force change. Perhaps she would have a better life in the future. He didn't believe anyone would dare bully a daughter of the Su family. At worst, they could send more people with her dowry. After the small family meeting, the 2 sisters walked out together and strolled in the garden. Qingyu, what are your own thoughts? Su Qingyu lowered her head slightly, a few strands of hair falling naturally. I don't have any thoughts. Su-han frowned, dissatisfied with the answer. Qingyu, this is your marriage. You're grown up now, you need to learn to judge for yourself and have your own opinions. Sister, we've never met him. Why label him so early and jump to conclusions? Can you really be certain what kind of person he is? Suhan's eyes drooped, even more, growing unhappier. Yet she couldn't bear to scold, so she sighed softly. His father is a womanizer, and his mother is even more wanton. From a prestigious family, she didn't even divorce before openly following another man. This not only slaps the Mu family's face, but also shames the Zhou family of Bailing province. What good could a son raised in such a family possibly be? Moreover, he left the Mu family and never received a proper education. Su Qingyu's eyes slightly narrowed, then quickly relaxed. Since he chose to leave the Mu family, doesn't that exactly show he doesn't approve of his parents' actions? We shouldn't be blinded by a single leaf stopping at what we see. It's too one-sided to view him like this. Suhan's eyes widened. This girl who usually didn't even know how to refuse someone could come up with such a long speech. Where did you learn such twisted reasoning? With you like this, I'm afraid you'll be sold off one day, and our family won't be able to find you. When Su Qingyu looked up, a serene smile bloomed on her face. What if he is a good person? Stop watching those brainwashing romance dramas, and stop dreaming that your fiancé is your destined soulmate. Face reality. Suhan now agreed with her mother's view. This silly girl was too naive, too innocent, too sheltered since childhood. She had originally planned to take it slow, but now she realized this engagement needed to be ended early. If he really got deceived by that son of the Mu family, it would be too late for regrets. Leaving the Su family, the two sisters shared a car. Suhan suggested again, why don't you go gain some experience at the family company? School is optional anyway. I see you're quite idle every day traveling around. Su Qingyu was always going on trips, visiting gardens, watching sunrises, and doing nothing serious, purely wasting her precious time. Sis, you know I can't. How do you know you can't if you don't try? They'll give you a company to manage independently. Hiring, staffing, development plans. All up to you with professional assistance. If you make a profit, it's your allowance. If you lose, the family covers it. Really, I can't. I'm not cut out for it. Dear sister, please let me off. What use is having you in this family? Aren't I your healing little angel, your warm little padded jacket? Isn't that enough? Suhan let out a snort from her nose, unwilling to waste more words. Where are you going? They'll drop you off. Su Qingyu had dressed up specially today, clearly heading to a party. Blue Sky Garden. A friend's birthday today. I'm going to hang out. A birthday party at a bar. That doesn't seem like a place you'd go. Did Zhu Hua invite you again? It wasn't that a birthday party couldn't be held at a bar, but someone of their status wouldn't go to such an ordinary bar. Yet we're all friends. Can't you see he's interested in you? No, it's just a gathering of friends. Qingyu, you need to learn to refuse, not just go along with everyone. If you're not interested in Zhu Hua, reject him decisively. He's not worthy of our family. Sis, we're just friends. Have you forgotten I already have a fiancé? I don't need you to remind me. Just make sure you don't forget. Your soft personality will cost you dearly sooner or later. No, it won't. They're all very nice to me and take care of me. Heh. Suhan rolled her eyes. That's because your surname is Su. A quarter of an hour later, Suhan dropped Su Qingyu off at Blue Sky Garden, a small bar with modest scale in a rather remote location. Her brow furrowed deeper. Watching Su Qingyu get out of the car, Suhan assigned two more of her subordinates to keep an eye on her before leaving with peace of mind. Qingyu, you're here. Someone was already waiting at the door, greeting her with a warm smile. He was 1.8 meters tall, with short black hair, wearing a simple yet tasteful white t-shirt and jeans. This person was Zhu Hua. In truth, his personality was sunny and outgoing, but he deliberately pretended to be steady. It wasn't that Su Qingyu liked this type, it was that the Su family behind her liked such composed young men. He felt quite confident. With his image, it might not be difficult to win over a girl like Su Qingyu, but gaining the approval of her family would be extremely hard. Su Qingyu's arrival drew cheers and hubbub, and she was led inside like a moon surrounded by stars. To make Su Qingyu feel at ease, Zhu Hua had specially invited a few more girls this time. The atmosphere was good, and everyone was polite. Regardless of whether the two would actually become a couple, it was always right to shower them with compliments. Su Qingyu kept a gentle smile throughout, letting them frolic. Today the small bar was entirely booked by Zhu Hua, with no outsiders present. The group, unburdened by restraint, reveled in high spirits and a vibrant atmosphere. Su Qingyu had a small sip of alcohol, but refrained from singing, remaining quiet throughout. Zhu Hua stayed by her side the whole time, diligently seeking topics for conversation and rarely interacting with other women. An hour later, Su Qingyu excused herself to use the restroom and left the private room. She declined the kind offer of her female companions to accompany her, insisting that her personal female bodyguard was sufficient. Entering the restroom, Su Qingyu gently adjusted a few strands of hair on her forehead and gazed at her reflection in the mirror, revealing an unusual cold expression. Then she loosened her tied-up hairstyle, letting it fall completely loose. Miss. Behind her, the female bodyguard, not much older than Su Qingyu, handed her several items with a stoic expression. A lightweight full-body coat, a hilt-shaped handle, an eerie mask, and an earpiece. Su Qingyu first took the earpiece and inserted it into her right ear, from which a female voice immediately emerged. Target confirmed. Both parties are in contact. Everything is ready. Proceed. You have only 3 minutes. Without paying much attention, Su Qingyu then slipped on the black lightweight coat. It was no ordinary garment, but a trial-star equipment piece perfectly tailored to her figure, enabling her to unleash her full potential while boosting her strength and providing a degree of defense. In just 3 seconds, the coat fit snugly over her body. She reached her hands to her neck and flicked outward, causing her hair to scatter and drift gently, partially veiling her face in a chaotic yet alluring charm. In mere seconds, Su Qingyu's demeanor transformed drastically, as if she had become a different person entirely. Her gaze was resolute, her killing intent palpable. This was no longer the fragile, naive Su Qingyu. Finally, she donned the mask, took the hilt, turned, and leaped from the second-floor window, vaulting toward the adjacent high-rise building. The female bodyguard glanced at her retreating figure, then returned to the door, standing guard to ensure no one entered. Their young miss was using the facilities. Bisui Grand Hotel, underground, 3rd level. With a soft thud, a graceful silhouette appeared. The hilt in her hand transformed into a gleaming white sword, cleanly dispatching 2 guards before emerging from the shadows to survey the 50-meter-long narrow corridor ahead. She was tall, standing at 1.72 meters, her entire body encased in a black, tight-fitting suit that accentuated her perfect, curvaceous figure. Her long black hair fell haphazardly in front and back, without order, partially obscuring her face in a free-spirited, casual manner. She wore a blood-red, eerie mask on her face, the left side depicting a human face, the right a fox's visage, covering her entire features with delicate edges that perfectly conformed to her facial contours. The first underground level was a parking lot. The second was partitioned off as a storage warehouse to deceive prying eyes. The 3rd level was their true lair, deeply concealed. A voice came through the earpiece. All underground surveillance cut. Biometric door opening in 1.5 seconds. As the words faded, the silhouette burst forth, charging toward the metal security door 50 meters ahead. Loose strands of hair danced in the air. With a faint click, the heavy metal security door emitted a subtle sound. At 1.6 seconds, the black figure crashed through the entrance. The 2 men at the door were stunned, instinctively reaching for their weapons, but failing to rise in time. With a swift slash of the sword, both heads flew into the air simultaneously. Inside, another long corridor stretched ahead, flanked by 4 rooms on each side with a door at the far end. A loud shout rang out. Someone's broken in. Hearing the commotion, over a dozen people rushed out of the 4 rooms, staring at the figure before them in slight bewilderment. What are you waiting for? Kill. Grab your weapons. Take her down. Kill. Kill. Another man dashed toward the end to alert the boss inside. The dozen or so charged forward. The silhouette was faster, her face utterly expressionless as she countercharged. With one sword stroke, a man's body was cleaved in 2. The sword's momentum did not wane, its residual force alone severed another man. Her movements were light and agile, her speed astonishing, yet her strength was remarkably formidable. The sword swept like a rainbow, silver light flashing. In the next instant, she appeared before 2 others. Before they could react, they slowly collapsed, clutching their necks as their heads parted from their bodies. With every sword fall, someone was beheaded. In just 3 seconds, all 13 men lay dead, not a single survivor, their bodies mutilated. Only then did the innermost door open and 3 men emerged. The one who had gone to report, and 2 bosses engaged in a deal. The 3 were horrified, especially the messenger who had rushed inside. They had come out as quickly as possible. Were their underlings already dead? One of them, a middle-aged man around 41, 8 meters tall, one-armed, with a scarred face and muscular build. Records identified him as Yulu, the leader of the Flying Scorpion gang. He stared grimly at the black-clad woman before him, his eyes fixed on her blood-red mask. A chill ran through him. Blood Fox. Are you Blood Fox? The silhouette did not respond. She walked slowly toward them, her steps unhurried, her figure alluring. Her target this time was not this minor gang. She was merely eliminating them as a convenience. Her true objective was the man trading with them. He possessed something valuable. Blood Fox, we've kept out of each other's way. You've crossed the line. I have connections above, and you can't bear the consequences. A melodious voice replied, of course I know. Deputy Bureau Chief Yu Chin, right? You? Yulu's face paled. How could she know? This was top secret. Apart from him and Yu Chin, no third person knew of their dealings. If higher-ups discovered that the Deputy Bureau Chief was covertly supporting an underground force like theirs colluding together, his political career would be over. Blood Fox had clearly come prepared. By revealing this so recklessly, she intended to leave no one alive. Muscles swelling, Yulu abruptly drew a long blade from his back and charged at Blood Fox with great strides. 2 minutes left. Don't dawdle. Finish it quickly. A reminder came through the earpiece. The silhouette who had intended to toy with him changed her mind, surging with power and striking with full force. Behind them, the middle-aged man who had specifically come to commission the Flying Scorpion gang slowly retreated, seeking an escape. His visit was highly secretive, known to no one. He had approached the Flying Scorpion gang not for any partnership, but to have them secretly transport a batch of rare valuable goods to a certain location. This was both a conspiracy and an open scheme. The Flying Scorpion gang surviving in a supercity like Qingling naturally had its own ways. Everyone knew what the gang did, so the goods would attract no attention on the road. But why had they been exposed before any action? None of them were newcomers to this game. He refused to believe Blood Fox's appearance was mere coincidence. She was undoubtedly after what he carried. He suddenly grabbed Yu Lu's underling beside him. Where's the back exit? A crafty rabbit has 3 burrows. How could their headquarters lack an escape route? If Blood Fox hadn't struck so suddenly without any warning from above, these people might have fled by now. The underling, his face flushed red, gripped the hand choking him. She's just one person. If we all attack together, we can kill her. Unexpectedly, this subordinate was quite loyal. His own strength was not negligible, but there was no need to fight to the death with some Blood Fox here. He tightened his grip further. Speak. But this subordinate was stubborn. The harder he was choked, the more he refused to speak, glaring back defiantly. If his boss died, he would drag this man down with him. Perhaps he was the one who brought Blood Fox here. Enraged, he was about to press further when the fight ended abruptly. Was Yu Lu so useless? Boss. The underling looked on in despair as Yu Lu too was beheaded, dead as could be. Blood Fox looked up. There were a few drops of blood on her mask. She wiped them away lightly, her gaze fixed on the true target. It seemed he would have to fight his way out from the front door. With a forceful squeeze, the underling followed his boss to the afterlife. Since he was so unafraid of death, he granted his wish. You can't stop me. What makes you think him alone, eh? The man's eyes twitched. In the next moment, a burly man crashed through the entrance, standing a full 9 meters tall with explosive muscles, charging straight at the target. Blood Fox joined the attack. Time was short, they needed to hurry. The battle was fierce, shaking the entire building several times, but it lasted only a minute before the man's head was severed by Blood Fox, ending it all. Done. With that, Blood Fox left the underground chamber. The earpiece relayed a female voice, understood. At that moment, a young man in a mechanical uniform entered, wearing a large baseball cap and carrying a toolbox. He flashed a stylish gesture at Blood Fox, ignored the corpses on the floor, and walked into the room at the end to crack the safe. Meanwhile, the burly 9-meter tall man approached the target, retrieving a small box from him. Got it. Excellent. 30 seconds left. Roger. The burly man approached the young man in the mechanical uniform. Hear that? 20 seconds left. No problem. 15 seconds will do. In the blink of an eye, the safe was opened, revealing 4 neatly stacked bags of money. They were supposed to be moved in the dead of night, but now that was unnecessary. Each grabbed 2 bags. Retreat. Meanwhile, Su Qingyu had returned to the adjacent blue sky garden. In the restroom, her personal female bodyguard carefully collected all the items, meticulously checking several times to ensure nothing was left behind and no flaws remained. Su Qingyu loosely tied up her disheveled hair without much fuss. Her expression was calm as she removed the blood-red mask, her index finger gently tracing the cheek below her right eye to wipe away a faint trace of blood. What do you think my fiancé is like? He took the mask and replied earnestly. Chow Wan investigated. I'm afraid he won't meet your standards, miss. I still need to see him in person. How can you truly know someone without observing them up close? You're right, miss. In this regard, no one was more qualified to speak than her own mistress. Without deep, genuine understanding, who could truly know what kind of person she was? After tidying up, the gentle Su Qingyu walked out of the restroom. 10 days later, Mu Hanchuan appeared in Long County of a neighboring city, where a dilapidated scrapped car suddenly materialized out of thin air, landing in the desolate mountain beneath his feet. This was the vehicle he had marked in his own Taizhou County over 100 kilometers away. He had deliberately come here to test it, and as he had anticipated, there were no issues. During these days, while recuperating from his injuries, he had been experimenting with his translocation skill. This would be his means of survival in the future, and he needed to understand it thoroughly and master it completely. For now, everything was going smoothly. Since he could translocate a scrapped car, he could certainly translocate luxury. This was a lucrative, cost-free venture. He would simply wander around high-end entertainment venues, seize the opportunity to mark a vehicle, and after half a month travel to another province to translocate it, then discreetly sell it to local car dealers. He wouldn't need to do many. Just 3 deals a month would suffice for his needs. Zero risk, absolute safety, immense profit. How perfect. Mu Hanchuan didn't consider himself a good person. Having endured all kinds of hardship since childhood, he felt no guilt in doing such things. As long as he could make money, nothing was off limits. Having no money was the true terror. Without delay, he decided to head to the city center now to scout the market in advance. Half an hour later, Mu Hanchuan found himself wandering the streets of Linghu City. He deliberately strolled down the city's most bustling entertainment strip, where luxury cars worth hundreds of thousands were plentiful, though those worth millions were scarce. Linghu City's caliber was still a bit low. When he had time, he would visit the major metropolises or provincial capitals to broaden his horizons and incidentally take advantage of opportunities. A single car, however broken, was merely a month's allowance for them, but for him it represented a substantial income. Consider it charity to a little brother. After wandering near an upscale community not far from the entrance, Mu Hanchuan leaped onto a large tree. Peering from afar, he could see nothing. Suddenly from a nearby path came the sound of curses. Concealing himself on the tree, Mu Hanchuan looked over and saw a man and a woman entangled in a struggle moving toward the very tree where he was perched. Listening closely, it was a man robbing a fashionable and attractive young woman. Mu Hanchuan had thought it might be some cliché melodrama. Are you asking for death? How dare you rob me? Do you know who I am? The pretty girl clutched her bag tightly, shouting loudly in an attempt to summon nearby security guards, refusing to let go as she was dragged closer. The bag might contain valuable items, but for someone living here, wouldn't she not care too much? Unless she was just a guest. Let go. The man wasn't very strong. In fact, he was rather thin, perhaps not much heavier than the girl. He seemed anxious, focused solely on grabbing the bag and fleeing. Faced with such a beautiful woman, he showed no interest, his mind fixed on his objective. Mu Hanchuan watched the struggle below, without any intention of playing the hero. Human hearts are treacherous and appearances can be deceiving. Who could truly say which of the two was the real villain? Don't you dare rob me. Tomorrow your entire family will die, believe me. The man grew furious, pulling something from his waist. A pistol. Was it a real gun? This was a hardened criminal. With one hand gripping the bag, and the other aiming the gun at the woman, he snarled, "Let go. My father is Lu Dagong. Do you know who my brother is? Dare to pull the trigger, and you'll see. Let go." The woman stumbled to the ground, but quickly scrambled up, stubbornly holding on to her bag, her face almost pressed against the gun muzzle. She had a fiery temper, and was utterly convinced he wouldn't dare shoot. Mu Hanchuan remained still. Both were stubborn. He wasn't foolish enough to interfere and risk being falsely accused as an accomplice or worse. He was also curious to see who was truly good and who was evil. Go ahead, shoot. If you don't, you'll die tomorrow. Suddenly the man released the bag. The woman beamed with joy. Mu Hanchuan felt bored. Was it over just like that? But just as both the woman and he thought the man had been intimidated and given up, the man's free hand clicked off the safety. The woman was about to curse again. The next moment, with utter resolve, a bang rang out. After firing, he grabbed the bag from the ground and fled, finally succeeding. The woman was shot in the head. She had practically pressed her face against the gun. She collapsed heavily, her eyes wide open in disbelief, even in death. She couldn't believe he had actually pulled the trigger. Watching the escaping man, Mu Hanchuan was now certain this one was evil. As for the beautiful woman lying in a pool of blood, she was beyond saving. She had indeed been the good one. Judgment made, Mu Hanchuan left and pursued the robber. People in the distance, hearing the commotion, rushed over, including 2 community security guards armed with guns. But after running several kilometers straight, the man appeared on a narrow, pitch-black gravel path. Gasping for breath, he sensed something and suddenly spun around, raising his gun. Behind him stood a figure in a gray hooded coat. The man was startled. Someone had caught up so quickly. Without hesitation, he pulled the trigger decisively. Bang, bang, bang. 3 shots in succession, none hitting their mark. The figure dodged left and right, effortlessly evading the bullets. The man was terrified. This must be a trialer, and a high-ranking one at that. He himself had once entered the trial star with high spirits, only to squander his fortune and sustain injuries, never once succeeding in a trial. The rewards he received were pitiful, barely enough to keep him alive. Abandoning further shooting, he turned to flee. The next instant, a round shield materialized in the gray-clad man's hand, and the moment it appeared, it was hurled toward him with tremendous force. Bang! A heavy blow struck the back of his head. The impact was immense, the speed too fast to evade. He had no chance to dodge. He pitched forward, the stolen designer bag flying far away, landing in dense bushes along the green belt. That was incredibly useful. The flying shield was Mu Hanchuan's strength, skill, translocation in action, his first real combat use. Summoning the shield directly from his secret base was surprisingly effective, more powerful, faster, and with greater impact than if he had thrown it himself. He hadn't expected such an additional benefit upon summoning. It was a pleasant surprise. His strength attribute was somewhat lacking, and this effectively compensated for it. Opening his right palm again, the shield, still rolling away, vanished and reappeared in Mu Hanchuan's hand. The shield slammed down again, striking the man's neck. His body convulsed a few times, and then lay still. No loose ends left. I'm truly a good person, ridding the world of a menace. That woman also deserves credit. Without her sacrifice, how could I have known this man was evil? Mu Hanchuan skirted the corpse and approached the clump of grass where the designer bag had fallen. He didn't touch it, pondering for a moment. Mark success. Markable object 77. In the end, Mu Hanchuan decided not to take the bag directly, but opted for a more cautious method. With a flick of his wrist, the shield in his hand flew swiftly into a man-made lake several dozen meters away. Then he turned and left the scene. 2 hours later, reaching a safe zone, Mu Hanchuan immediately activated the translocation skill. The first object to appear in his hand was the designer bag that had cost 2 lives. Then the shield he had thrown into the lake also returned to his other hand. Awesome. With this skill, even if not invincible, his self-preservation and survival capabilities had greatly increased. Mu Hanchuan was now more confident about his future side hustles. Not just those expensive luxury cars. Mu Hanchuan thought armored cash transport vehicles and safes might also be worth a try, don't you think? Outrageous. With such abilities, how could he not prosper in the future? Money. You can never have too much, you'll always find a way to spend it. With ample financial support, his growth rate could double. After all, attribute points weren't only obtainable through trial levels, attribute point item cards were the real gold mine. Just thinking about it was thrilling. Then Mu Hanchuan considered an even more critical question: can people be marked? If possible, the possibilities would be immense. Not only could it prove invaluable in team trials, I wouldn't even let my teammates die. The applications in the real world would be even greater. For example, sending a partner to sneak into a bank to steal money, then pulling him back at the right moment. Or having him infiltrate a major family or corporation to find secret vaults. Damn. Unstoppable. Truly unstoppable. The possibilities extended even further. There's no lack of opportunities. What matters is broadening one's horizons to make the most of such an incredible skill. Unfortunately, his strength was still too lacking to attempt such feats, and he had no suitable partner. Perhaps later. Opening the designer bag, he found 50,000 in cash. Presumably the man had targeted the woman for this 50,000, following her until she was alone before striking. He also fished out a bunch of miscellaneous items. Valuable or not, he couldn't tell, most were used. There was a phone worth about 10,000 on the market, but Mu Hanchuan had no intention of selling it. The risk wasn't worth it, especially since the phone was tied to 2 deaths. 2 bank cards, completely useless. The haul wasn't great, just 50,000 in cash. The bag itself might be worth something, but Mu Hanchuan didn't know about such things and wasn't willing to take risks. Better to dispose of it all cleanly. The most important gain from this incident wasn't the cash, but the practical application of his strength skill. It was cancel mark. Markable objects 67. Mu Hanchuan canceled the mark on the bag and disposed of it along with the other items. Caution above all. Ding. With only 3 days left until the end of the month, the long-awaited news finally reached Mu Hanchuan. The team trial had to be entered within these 3 days, or else this month's entry qualification would be wasted. 8 p.m., Hanwha Auction House, Suite 7. It was a message from Baigu, presumably confirming the final day of entry, and the wealthy miss who would charter their team should also make an appearance. He would go back to put on some makeup and then head over. Mu Hanchuan was located in Taizé County, which belonged to Nan'an City. Hanwha Auction House was situated in the urban area of Nan'an City, the largest auction venue in the city. Those who frequented such places naturally wished to avoid being recognized, so some concealment was permitted as long as no weapons were brought inside. This was precisely why Baigu had chosen this location. It was safe and ensured their identities remained undisclosed. In Mu Hanchuan's view, Baigu and Midnight Black Tea definitely came from well-off families. Without a certain level of family backing, it would be difficult for someone their age to attain such strength. However, their backgrounds were not extraordinarily prominent, otherwise they wouldn't be taking on jobs so diligently. As for the taciturn Heiyu, he was likely the same kind of person as Mu Hanchuan, someone who had fought his way up on his own. Both shared a similar air of poverty. At exactly 8 p.m., Mu Hanchuan arrived at Suite 7 without a single second's delay, wanting to avoid unnecessary pleasantries. For people like them, small talk was the most insubstantial and worthless exchange. At least that was Mu Hanchuan. For bodyguards stood watch outside the suite. One could tell at a glance that they were all trial participants. Their aura and gaze were distinctly different from ordinary people. Inside the suite were Baigu, Midnight Black Tea, and Heiyu, along with 3 additional individuals, 2 men and 1 woman. Neither of the 2 men wore any disguise, both were middle-aged. One was seated while the other stood behind him. As for the young miss, she had made some attempt to conceal her appearance, so her face was unclear. Her figure, however, was passable, slightly inferior to Midnight Black Tea's, though her skin was fair. The seated middle-aged man spoke. Now that everyone is here, let's discuss the details. They showed no interest in the ongoing auction outside, and immediately got down to business. Agreed. Baigu began introducing the team members to the employers. I am the leader for this operation, codenamed Baigu, specializing in frontline combat. This one. Baigu gestured to the only female in the team, Midnight Black Tea, a melee assassin. And this one. He pointed toward Heiyu in the corner. Heiyu, the team's scout and long-range fire support. Finally, Baigu indicated Mu Hanchuan. His name is Mu, the team's heavy shield. He's the heavy shield. The employers had shown no surprise at the previous introductions. They had already done their research. but the last one raised doubts. So young and not particularly robust looking, he was the heavy shield. After all, on the trial star, crises could arise at any moment, and any danger could descend. The tank was the most crucial role. Regardless of the crisis, they must be the first to stand at the very front. This person was far too young, perhaps with only a few years of trial experience. Could he really be reliable? The heavy shield they had envisioned should have been a burly man. Baigu explained with a smile, "Rest assured everyone. Although Mu may not have a sturdy build, his strength is absolutely dependable. We have collaborated many times without any incidents. He is very reliable. Our entire team would never gamble with our own lives. Even if I agreed, my teammates would not." Midnight Black Tea chimed in. "If he's in our team, it means he definitely possesses the capability. There is no need for any concern on this matter." Mu Hanchuan took a second look at Midnight Black Tea. Her words carried such authority. Just by her tone, one could tell she wasn't from an ordinary family. Yu in the corner also nodded in agreement. With such high praise, it seemed this young man was indeed not mediocre. The employers cast another glance at this unremarkable youth, especially the curious young miss. "Very well, then let's discuss the specifics. As long as our young lady returns safely, each of you will receive a reward of 1 million. Additionally, you'll get extra bonuses based on the trial reward she obtains. If you succeed in breaking through and win the final victory of the trial, each of you will receive up to 6 million. Furthermore, you need to pay a deposit of 8 million. If our young lady meets with an accident during the trial, the deposit will not be refunded. Do you have any issues with this?" Baigu exchanged glances with Midnight Black Tea and the others, then shook his head. Team trials are riskier than solo trials, and the trial levels are random, so any danger could arise. If the deposit is 8 million, then the reward for achieving the final victory should also be 8 million to be fair. The middle-aged man chuckled. "The price we offered is the highest in Luo province. We are willing to give this price because you have a good reputation. There are better and more suitable teams in Tianlong City, but we simply wish to avoid too much trouble. Of course, if you truly succeed in this trial, we may consider raising the price next time. This is a long-term partnership, and we naturally hope you indeed possess the strength. It's beneficial for both parties." Hearing this, Baigu and the others exchanged glances once more. This young lady came from a prominent family, at least among the top families in Luo province. If they could secure such a wealthy client's business, it would be advantageous for their team, provided they demonstrated sufficient capability and earned recognition. "All right, we'll settle it like this. We hope for future cooperation as well." Baigu finally conceded and accepted on behalf of the team. They only managed to find a charter employer once every few months on average, and they usually had to pool their own funds to enter team trials. It was rare to encounter such a generous and financially powerful employer. "Excellent. Now let's discuss the specific arrangements." Next, the young miss herself stepped forward. "Hello everyone, my name is Chuyo. He'll be counting on your care during the upcoming trial." It was obvious at once that this was also a code name, not her real name. "I am a support with the ability to enhance strength-based buffs." Her self-introduction was quite detailed, but her ability was overly narrow. She was clearly young and had probably only recently entered the trials, though otherwise her family wouldn't have gone to such great lengths to find a team for her. Then, under the leadership of Baigu as captain, they began discussing equipment configuration, item carrying, and skill coordination within the trial star. Chuyu listened with extraordinary attentiveness. It was likely her first time participating in a team trial, and her eyes sparkled with excitement and curiosity. Mu Hanchuan's equipment was finalized. He would carry an F-grade round shield and F-grade tower shield, and an A-grade void breastplate, all purely defensive gear. The void breastplate had sustained severe damage and was under repair. It should be ready for pickup in the next couple of days. The round shield was smaller, thus offering less defensive area, but it was more agile. The tower shield could be expanded, providing greater defensive area and strength, but its drawback was its clumsiness. As for items, Mu Hanchuan brought a medical kit as a support tool. His primary duty was not only to stand at the very front, but also to protect the young lady. Carrying a medical kit was essential. Baigu carried durability restoration items, which were basically intended for Mu Hanchuan's shields. Yu carried a repair kit. Midnight Black Tea was wealthy. She initially intended to bring a collective defense tool card, but when the young miss mentioned that she would also bring a defense tool card, Midnight Black Tea switched to an offensive tool instead. With this, the basic framework of the team trial was set, awaiting only entry 2 days later. Everyone in the room remained calm except for the young miss, whose composure was lacking. Being a first-timer, she was slightly excited. "All right, let's start the registration now," Baigu said, extending his hand and pressing it onto the silver star key on the table. This silver star key was provided by the employer. In a few moments, Baigu was registered successfully. Next, Midnight Black Tea, Yu, and Mu Hanchuan also completed their registration, followed by the young miss. Once the registration was successful, the members of this team trial were officially confirmed and could not be changed. Team dungeons require advanced registration. When the time comes, the captain can directly initiate the trial, and the team members do not need to be together. Once the trial begins, all registered members will be collectively teleported to the Forbidden Trial Star, or less likely, to the Forbidden Ring. Both are considered trial stars, but they differ somewhat. Under normal circumstances, temporary teams, formed by individuals, would not dare to operate this way. They would find a relatively safe location or a trusted intermediary organization to activate the Team Trial Star key on the spot, supervising each other's entry to avoid being framed. But for a fixed team like theirs, such concerns were unnecessary. They could enter separately from their own secret bases. Although Mu Hanchuan had only cooperated with these people once before, he was not afraid. Even if he were to be betrayed, he had the confidence to protect his own life. A tough man had to be able to endure. Baigu clapped his hands firmly. All right, entry into the team trial is set for 8 p.m. 2 days from now. Everyone prepare in advance and don't cause any delays. As for the deposit, it had already been handed over to Baigu in advance, and he would pass it on to the intermediary. No problem. Understood. Got it. This silver star key had already been registered, so it was worthless to outsiders. The employer took it back, planning to bring it out at 8 p.m. the day after tomorrow and supervise Baiga's activation. Their family's young lady was of utmost importance. When the trial ended, she would be returned directly to the same. With everything settled, the crowd dispersed. Mu Hanchuan did not rush to leave, but lingered in the auction hall for a while longer, his gaze fixed on the auction stage, where an elderly man presided, a sight that was rather off-putting. The next item up for auction, a blue random attribute point card, starting bid at 3 million. A wave of soft gasps rippled through the audience, mostly from young men and women who had clearly never witnessed such a spectacle before. Mu Hanchuan's eyes glimmered with a hint of longing. He had lingered here not only for the spectacle, but also to catch a glimpse of this blue random attribute point card. He had never possessed one, nor had he ever had the chance to use one. Too expensive beyond his means. White, 1 point yellow, 2 points blue, 3 points red, 4 points purple, 5 points. The highest grade attribute card ever seen on the market was purple. Black was virtually unheard of. Even the lowest tier white random attribute point card, which granted a mere single random attribute point, started at 1 million, while this blue one cost 3 million. How could he possibly afford it? Trial levels were indeed the primary source of attribute points for challengers, but they were fraught with immense danger. Random attribute cards, on the other hand, though limited in usage intervals, allowed those with exceptional talent to keep pace with, or even surpass, those who braved the trials. Mu Hanchuan wasn't entirely sure if this could be equated to talent. He had merely heard others speak of it in such terms. Essentially, it boiled down to aptitude. The better your aptitude, the faster you could cultivate. The same principle applied here. The greater your talent, the shorter the interval between uses of random attribute cards. If you could only use one random attribute card per month, while those with supreme talent could use one every week, the gap between you would widen immeasurably over time. Such was the nature of talent. Unfair, yet that was reality. Absolute fairness had never existed. In truth, encountering someone with innate talent was not the most daunting prospect. Consider Mu Hanchuan. He had never once used an attribute card simply because he lacked the funds. Since he had never used one, how could anyone gauge his talent? What was truly terrifying were those who possessed both supreme talent and formidable backing with no shortage of wealth. That was the real menace. Take the young miss they had recently been hired to protect. If her talent was decent, coupled with a monthly team trial that spared her from solo challenges, her growth would be anything but slow. She might even outpace ordinary prodigies. This was a classic case of converting financial power into personal strength. Money, how I adore it, but alas I have none. After paying the deposit, he had less than 1 million left. Amen. He even had to scrape together funds for the monthly team trial. Such luxuries were only for dreams. What got your eye on that random attribute card? The middle-aged man from the private booth had appeared beside Mu Hanchuan unnoticed. The young miss was nowhere in sight. No, just looking. There was no way he would admit to being broke. The man chuckled softly. A yellow random attribute card materialized in the middle-aged man's hand as he offered it to Mu Hanchuan. My friend has his sights set on the one up there. This one's for you. During the team trial, please look after our young miss. She was born into privilege and has a bit of a temper, but as long as you don't provoke her, she won't cause trouble. Edge. Mu Hanchuan didn't reach out. How could he accept so brazenly? Take it. I hope my young miss returns safe and sound. No problems. Of course not. Not a single problem would arise. Since the man was practically shoving it into his hands, refusing would be impolite. Mu Hanchuan reluctantly accepted, pursing his lips to suppress a grin. What a kind soul, giving away a 2 million item like that. For such sincerity, even if he himself got hurt, head, make sure the young miss came out unscathed. That was professional integrity. You're a good man. The man praised before taking his leave. Was he trying to recruit him? Not as a son-in-law, of course, but likely as a hired hand or bodyguard. Families like theirs valued men like Mu Hanchuan, especially those with exceptional individual capability. If they could win him over, they could organize a competitive team within the clan for team trials. The money spent wouldn't be wasted. It would serve to train their own enforcers and safeguard the younger generation. a win-win arrangement. Mu Hanchuan glanced at the auction stage. The blue random attribute card was eventually sold for 3.5 million, barely any premium. Even so, using 4 cards a month would still cost a fortune. Regardless of the card's tier, the interval depended solely on your talent. With sufficient funds, higher tier cards were naturally preferable. Why use white when you could use blue? You'd gain several extra attribute points each month. And these were only random attribute cards which randomly added to various attributes. On the trial star, there was also a chance to obtain fixed attribute point cards which were truly expensive, priced at 3 times that of random cards. A blue one would cost around 9 million. Ha'd never be able to afford one in this lifetime. Ordinary people certainly couldn't afford them. Only true big shots, or those just a few points short of activating a piece of equipment or skill, would specifically buy such cards to fill the gap. Of course, you could gamble with random attribute cards. If you hit the desired attribute on the first try, you'd make a huge profit. If you missed it 10 times in a row, you'd lose everything. More crucially, there was the time factor. 10 times. Even if you were exceptionally talented and could use 1 card per week, that would still cost over 2 months of time. You might have money to burn, but not time to waste. Mu Hanchuan left eager to return and use the yellow attribute card. He was desperate to know his own talent. Heaven willing, he hoped it wouldn't be too disappointing. An hour and a half later, after a nervous journey and deliberately taking a long detour, Mu Hanchuan arrived at his secret base. He could have used the card on the way, but he insisted on returning here. Perhaps his luck would be better. He pulled out the yellow card, its surface etched with shallow lines, and a simple 2, meaning it added 2 attribute points. Why did high-level civilizations have to be so half-hearted? Couldn't they make it look more refined? Heaven bless me. I offer 20 years off my parents' lives each in exchange. Or even 30. After praying, Mu Hanchuan used the card without delay. Random attribute point card successfully activated. Physique increased by 2 points. As the remaining values for agility and mental perception are insufficient, the deficiency is applied to mental perception. Physique 1, mental perception 1 points added successfully. As expected, it was added to physique again. Mu Hanchuan had anticipated this. Every attribute reward he had ever received without exception had gone to physique. Only when other stats fell below a quarter of the base value would they automatically be supplemented. This time was no different even with a random card. Mu Hanchuan glanced at his attributes. Strength 88, physique 34-31, rank agility 86, mental perception 861, equipment none, skill transfer, strength 12 items, none 0, brain capacity 16, remaining 1, not bad either. Mental perception increased by 1 point, getting closer to Frank. Mu Hanchuan immediately checked the cooldown for the next random attribute card. Random attribute point card, cooldown interval, remaining 5 days, 23 hours, 59 minutes. Fuck, 6 days? Mu Hanchuan leaped with excitement. What did this mean? It meant he could use 5 random attribute cards per month. As long as he could earn enough money in the future, he could gain over 10 additional physique points each month, nearly doubling his advancement speed. Of course, all of this hinged on having the financial means. Now that I possess a terrifying strength skill, I can definitely make it. Believe in myself. Mu Hanchuan pumped himself up, injecting a full dose of self-confidence. He never imagined his talent would be so high. In his knowledge and experience, the shortest interval had heard of was 7 days, the longest, over 3 months, belonged to none other than his own agent Chai Long. Chai Long was utterly hopeless beyond any chance of redemption. Not having seen it didn't mean it didn't exist. There were surely beings on this planet with even greater talent, far greater, let alone the countless races across this galaxy. He had to work even harder. Entering the team trial the night after next, with a bit of luck, he might just rake in several million in rewards. After that, he planned to splurge at the underground market to grab a random stat item card for fun. He dared not go to official vendors. They required real identity verification, and his true identity simply could not be exposed. Though Mu Hanchuan skulked about daily, always using aliases when venturing out, the truth was that his real identity had long been recorded in the National Archives, entered personally by his grandfather. He belonged to a batch of considerable importance, and altering it was utterly impossible. A fake identity was useless too. Modern technology made concealment impossible. If anyone truly investigated, they would inevitably uncover the truth. The only way was to stay as low-key as possible, steer clear of public places, avoid all official channels, and keep a wide berth from the authorities. Alas, he was indeed a pitiful child. After the trial, he would have to spare some time to check on the old man. He hadn't heard from him in a while. Hopefully he hadn't gone off on some reckless venture again. At his age, he simply couldn't sit still. Why not just enjoy a peaceful retirement? Mu Hanchuan stepped out of his secret base. First, he'll go see if my void stomach armor has been repaired. That piece of equipment is far too critical. There can be no mistakes. If it's not done yet, he'll need old Wong to hurry. It must be completed within these 2 days. It was late at night, the perfect time to go. He was a regular at that shop, never had any issues. If he wasn't familiar with the place, Mu Hanchuan wouldn't go there. In fact, the options within Nanan City were quite limited. Equipment produced on the trial star could only be repaired by trialists who had learned the repair skill, and those repair skills themselves were products of the trial star. Those who had learned in Frank repair skill could only fix Frank equipment. Those within a rank skill could repair a rank and below. Some special types of equipment even required unique repair skills. The standards were extremely strict. In the entire Nanan City, there were only a handful of freelance rank repairers. There was no choice. Otherwise, he would have to go through official channels at authorized repair centers, which Mu Hanchuan could never do. In the early hours, he arrived at a river dredging transfer station in Taizhou County. The person he sought was here. Ordinarily, almost no one came to this place. Only at the end of each month would government personnel arrive to clear the silt. Mu Hanchuan walked in from the riverside path. Old Wang isn't here. Entering the room, he frowned. Usually at this hour, Old Wang would be stationed here. My master is out. Tell me whatever it is. The speaker was a young man named Song Hung, not too old. Maybe 27 or 28. He was Old Wang's apprentice, capable only of repairing Frank equipment. Normally, he assisted Old Wang with minor tasks, handling unimportant Frank gear. Mu Hanchuan didn't care much for this fellow. He lacked real skill but thought highly of himself, strutting around arrogantly all day. Whenever he got the chance, had put on airs as if others were begging for his favor. I'm here to pick up my equipment. It was finalized 13 days ago. Oh, the number. 17. Song Hung rummaged around casually, pulled out a box, tossed it onto the table, and turned away. Mu Hanchuan breathed a sigh of relief. At least it had been repaired without a hitch. He opened it for a look and his eyes darkened sharply. It's not fixed. Song Hung didn't even look up. Can't you see I'm busy? Mu Hanchuan glanced at the equipment in his hands. It was marked with 825. His own wasn't finished yet, and this guy was already working on something else. Was Song Hung this lacking in decorum? That piece he was holding was an A rank item. Had Old Wang managed to get Song Hung an A rank repair skill? An A rank repair skill was a type of auxiliary skill with relatively low learning requirements, just Frank stats for strength and agility. This Song Hung had clearly participated in very few trials, yet he had already reached Frank. There was no way Song Hung could have pulled that off alone, nor could he have obtained an A rank repair skill without Old Wang's help. Could this guy be Old Wang's illegitimate son? Where's Old Wang? Looking at the void stomach armor, it seemed only about 60% restored. There was just one day left before the deadline. Even if Old Wang rushed back, it couldn't be finished on time. The team trial was the night after next. This would ruin everything. Song Hung still didn't look up, his expression disdainful. My master is very busy. He doesn't have time to stay here all day. Take it if you want it, leave it if you don't. Come back in half a month to collect it. Huh. Mu Hanchuan was irritated, but his face remained calm. Without saying much, he placed the remaining half of the payment gently on the counter and took his void stomach armor. This was payment he sent for his own life. Literally money for his death. Old Wang was a steady man, highly trustworthy. He had probably felt confident leaving because his apprentice had finally reached a rank repairability. Before leaving, Old Wang would have explained everything clearly, which items needed priority repair, which had to be completed on time. It was obvious Song Hung hadn't taken any of it seriously. Everyone in this line of work had to know how to conduct themselves and follow the rules. It was crucial. Otherwise, Old Wang surely understood, but his apprentice didn't, and he wouldn't have the chance to learn. Whether the damaged void stomach armor would cause him trouble during the team trial, or not, once he got out he would come back to demand an explanation. Mu Hanchuan turned and left. Before he even reached the door, he heard a loud tch from behind. The remaining payment on the table had yet to be collected hastily. Back at his secret base, Mu Hanchuan did nothing else. He focused on resting, conserving his energy, and sleeping soundly to relieve his foul mood. He didn't wake until noon the next day. Going into the adjacent storeroom, he began preparing for the team trial the following night. Inside were his few pieces of equipment: 3 round shields, 1 arm shield, 2 large shields. All Frank, plus and Frank armor. All defensive gear. For him, offensive equipment was essentially useless. He couldn't even use it. The only option was to sell it for money. After a moment's thought, Mu Hanchuan decided to bring the A-rank void stomach armor anyway. Even at only 60% integrity, its defense was still superior to the Frank armor. However, if the fighting inside grew too intense, it might be completely destroyed. This was the only piece of equipment he owned that reached a rank. Could he bear to part with it? How frustrating. Old Wang chose to leave at any other time, but right before his team trial. Old Wang had failed him. Wait. Mu Hanchuan suddenly recalled. Didn't he have in strength skill migration? There was no need to overthink. If something went wrong, he could simply summon the Frank armor over and switch. Why had he been worrying so much? Foolish, utterly foolish. In the corner was a pile of auxiliary items. None were high value. The most expensive was a medical kit worth 30,000. Had never had a chance to use it before. This time He'd bring the medical kit. It would come in handy. He hoped that lady wouldn't need it. The more he could save, the better. He was poor. Mu Hanchuan sat on the floor and began to study carefully. 1 round shield, 1 large shield, and the void stomach armor. These 3 would enter the trial with him. That left 2 round shields, 1 arm shield, 1 large shield, and in frank armor. All his possessions were here. He decided to mark everything just in case something unexpected happened in there. He had 2 remaining slots marked, a durability item card and a repair kit card. Yes, that should be enough. Use everything he could. These were all items produced on the trial star. The real world had good equipment and powerful firepower, but they couldn't be brought into the trial star. Naturally, he had none here, so he couldn't mark them. Should I mark a real-world item and try to migrate it into the trial star? Mu Hanchuan entertained the new idea, but then dismissed it. He would experiment during a personal trial. For a team trial, it was better not to take risks. The next evening at 7:50, Mu Hanchuan was in his secret base fully equipped and ready, merely waiting to be teleported into the team trial. On the other side, Baigu had already reunited with the clients and was earnestly instructing the young lady on everything she needed to be mindful of upon entering the trial star, his heart filled with worry. Inside, we will handle ordinary situations. You just need to stay close to Mu and don't worry about anything else, understand? Rest assured, I understand. We won't call Mu away unless the opponent is too powerful. But if a formidable foe appears, don't panic. Just stay hidden in a safe spot. If something uncontrollable happens, use that defensive item card to protect yourself. Once we solve the problem, we'll come find you. Okay, if we get separated, just follow Mu and do as he says. Don't panic. He will protect you, and you must never leave his side. Got it. After all the chatter, it boiled down to one sentence: just stick with Mu and ignore everything else. She wasn't stupid, she understood perfectly well. Good. Then, let's prepare to start the team trial. Alright. Chiyu's heart raced. This was the first trial in her life. Yes, she had never even participated in a solo trial before, so she was naturally extremely nervous and excited. She was about to witness a new chapter of history. Baigu walked to the marble table on which lay the silver star key marked by the 5 of them. Be careful. And accompanying Chiyu this time was also an elderly woman who couldn't help but utter a word of caution. Madam, rest assured, Miss Chiyu will return safely. Not for the millions in bounty, but for their own 8 million deposit. Even if it meant losing limbs, they were determined to bring this young lady back in one piece. At 8 o'clock sharp, Baigu grasped the silver star key in his right hand, took one last look at Chiyu, and with her determined gaze crushed the star key. With a swoosh, both Baigu and Chiyu in the room vanished simultaneously. At the same moment, in 3 other secret locations, the prepared Mu Hanchuan, Wuya Hongxia, and Heiyu also disappeared from their hiding spots. Team Trial activated. Location: Jijin Wasteland. Trial type: Blood Trial. Participating teams: 57 rules. Survive for 3 days. The trial ends automatically after 3 days. Within that time, eliminate as many other trial participants as possible. The top 3 teams in eliminations receive rewards. Those who die remain forever on the trial star. Those who survive return. They arrived on the trial star. Damn it. Crap. A slaughter trial. Our luck is just too bad. The 5 of them landed in a vast wasteland covered with scorched black rocks. Sparse vegetation surrounded them, and various grotesque dark creatures lurked in bizarre shapes. The terrain was complex, full of ravines and ridges, rugged and uneven, an extremely harsh environment. As soon as they landed, Baigu and the others began venting complaints. Chiyu's little face turned pale with fright. Even as a rookie, she knew this trial wouldn't be easy to get through. Last time, with the same team composition, they had entered a survival trial. Just fend off attacks from native creatures and last 2 days. Simple and easy. This time their luck was terrible. They ended up in a Team Toadium slaughter trial. The teams entering the team trial varied wildly, most being hastily assembled motley crews. But there was no guarantee that elite squads like theirs weren't also present. The uncertainty was too great. One misstep could lead to total annihilation. Moreover, the participants weren't limited to humans. There were also various races from across the galaxy, each with different abilities, making it hard to gauge their strength. Misjudgments were easy, making things extremely tricky. The moment they landed, Mu Hanchuan immediately tested his relocate skill, summoning an auxiliary item, the durability value card. The next instant, the card appeared in his hand behind his back. It worked. Mu Hanchuan was overjoyed. No amount of theorizing compared to a live experiment. The Shrank relocate skill could indeed directly summon items to the trial star. Amazing. Too amazing. Mu Hanchuan felt immensely reassured. Even facing a blood trial, he had no fear. At the very least, his self-preservation was guaranteed. Mark removed. Remaining marks, 67. He secretly removed the mark from this durability value card, ready to use it elsewhere whenever needed. Wuya Hongxia's expression turned serious. This is going to be tough. What should we do? Baigu spoke with a hint of gravity. We have an employer this time. It's not wise to compete for rewards. Our priority is self-preservation. The blood trials rewards were usually high, but with 57 teams participating and only 3 able to claim them, the competition was fierce. With a boss to escort, vying for those rewards would be highly imprudent. Yeah, that's all we can do. Wu Yahongsha also felt the difficulty had increased significantly. If they hadn't taken on this client, they might have had the confidence to compete. Heiyu didn't voice an opinion. As the scout, he had already begun observing the surroundings. Naturally, Chiyu didn't offer any thoughts either. Mu Hanchuan also remained silent, but he felt a bit disappointed. The team trial only happened once a month, and returning empty-handed without gaining anything meant another wasted month. Still, bringing Chiyu back alive would earn them 1,000,000 reward. It was like accompanying her on an outing, not entirely without gain. Baigu took on the leader's responsibility and issued the first command. It's 3 in the afternoon on the trial star. You all find a concealed spot to lie low. Stay away from any vegetation. I'm going to collect some Ingming spider blood. Wu Yahongsha nodded. All right. She gestured to Chiyu and led her to a small vegetation-free pit for temporary concealment. Mu did not leave, he followed right behind Chiyu. Heiyu didn't join them. Instead, he headed in the opposite direction from Baigu to scout the surroundings, focusing on whether any other teams were nearby. Wu Yahongsha, what's the use of Ingming's spider blood? Chiyu whispered. Wu Yahongsha, while observing the surroundings, replied casually, it's the blood of a spider-like creature found here. What's it for? To drink. Wu Yahongsha. Mu Hanchuan. Of course not. This part of the Jijin wasteland is special. There are giant fern spores everywhere. They release spores during the day. Once you touch these colorless spores, you'll hallucinate, unable to tell friend from foe. It's incurable and takes days to recover. Ingming spider blood automatically repels these giant fern spores, keeping them away from you. At night, these giant fern spores close up and go dormant. Oh, I see. She understood. Learned. 10 minutes later, Baigu returned holding a tube of viscous blood that made Chiyu feel nauseous. Apply it. Prepare to move. We must find a safe hiding place before nightfall. Wu Yahongsha applied it to herself, first then to Chiyu. Despite her reluctance, Chiyu remained still and cooperative. Mu Hanchuan of course applied it himself. 2 minutes later, Heiyu also returned, already smeared with the shadow-screaming spider's blood. Self-reliance of full supply. Baigu asked Heiyu, how is the surroundings? No other teams spotted. There's a small hill to the southeast and many ravines of varying depths to the south. Time was too short. Heiyu had only managed to scout this much. Head south. Resolute. Baigu chose not the small hill, but the more complex ravine terrain, which posed significantly less danger than the hill. The group, now smeared with the shadow-screaming spider's blood, moved swiftly. Heiyu scouted ahead. Baigu led. In the middle were Mu Hanchuan and Chiyu. Wu Yahongsha brought up the rear. This formation was a combat-ready stance. Mu Hanchuan was tasked with shielding Chiyu instantly, while the others fought Ha. Mu Hanchuan stole a glance at Chiyu beside him. His shift ability had only marked 6 items so far. Should he try to mark her a living person? Though he was confident he could keep her safe, he couldn't guarantee absolute certainty. What if an unexpected accident, for instance a full-team ambush? No matter how tough he was, he couldn't withstand that many. If he could truly mark her, there would be no risk at all. After pondering for a while on the move, Mu Hanchuan decided to try. At worst there was no loss, and it was worth a shot. This sheltered young lady, inexperienced with the world, would never understand what he did to her. He acted on impulse. When a deep ravine appeared ahead, he took the opportunity to support her arm and give. Chiyu offered a grateful smile. She wanted to say she wasn't completely useless. Though it was her first trial, her strength and agility had already reached Frank. This little ditch was no challenge. Mark successful. Markable items 77. Damn, Mu Hanchuan was astonished. He really could mark a living person. No wonder this wasn't strength skill, it was utterly overpowered. He used to doubt this strength skill's worth, but any skill that reaches strength can't be garbage. It's all about how you use. In his mind, he could clearly perceive Chuyu's current location. Forget shifting her, just the location mark alone was a huge boon. Even if he temporarily left or lost contact, he could find her instantly. No risk of losing her. Brilliant. As a qualified bodyguard, I've taken another huge step forward. If ever at a dead end, I've found another excellent career. Not in security, of course, but in kidnapping. First find a way to approach the target, mark him or her, then wait 3 months or half a year. On some quiet night, secretly shift them over. Finally demand a ransom. Smooth execution, danger level 0. If I still get caught under those circumstances, then I'd truly be impressed. Along the way, charred black rocks were everywhere and large patches of ground were stained black. Running south for a few kilometers, the squad stopped beside a ravine over 7 meters deep. Below it was pitch black, surrounded by black rock walls. After careful survey, Baigu was satisfied. Good, this is the spot. Wu Yahongsha also inspected it. It'll do. Start digging. Heiyu stayed outside to observe the perimeter. Wu Yahongsha guarded the edge of the ravine, alert to the surroundings. Baigu and Mu Hanchuan jumped into the pit, selected a spot with good visibility and easy defense, and began chiseling a temporary shelter to prepare for the night. As for Miss Chiyu, she naturally found a comfortable spot to sit and daydream while supervising the work. She just didn't understand. Why start digging a cave in broad daylight? This rock is a bit hard, Mu Hanchuan grumbled. Baigu, also toiling away, replied casually, "That's good. It offers better protection and won't be penetrated by the black liquid." Digging lasted half an hour. The two men were drenched in sweat while the two women, one sitting above, one below, were bored stiff. Just as the cave reached over 3 meters deep and about 8 square meters in area, nearly complete, a warning came from Heiyu in the distance. The mimicry of a very common insect call on the trial star. The three of them looked up simultaneously, stopped their work, and exchanged glances. It had only been a little over an hour since they arrived on the trial star. Was a crisis already upon them? Baigu made a hand signal 21. They understood immediately. Then, as Chuyu was still stunned, Baigu and Wu Yihongcha rushed out of the ravine and moved swiftly toward Heiyu's position. Chuyu didn't know what was happening. Just as she was about to ask, Mu made a hand gesture to hush her and beckoned her over. Chuyu didn't dare delay, as she quickly came to Mu's side. Her heart pounded faster. Could it be that they had already encountered another trial team? Mu Hanchuan gestured for Chuyu to hide inside the newly dug cave, while he took the round shield from his waist and guarded the entrance. Chuyu obediently went inside. Only then did she remember. She was a support class, wasn't she? It was too late to boost Baigu and Wu Yihongcha's strength, but she could add it to this Mu, proving she wasn't completely useless. Mu Hanchuan felt a warmth in his body and noticed his strength attribute had subtly changed, from 88 to 108, crossing into frank. Mu Hanchuan looked at Chuyu. So this was her support skill. It was indeed a bit simplistic, but boosting the most important stat, strength, was still quite valuable. Especially for him, it helped his strength attribute cross into frank. Every time one advances to a higher major rank, the corresponding attribute gains a direct 20% boost independent of attribute points. That meant he not only gained a 20-point strength boost, but also the Frank's 20% attack power bonus. For a tank like him, this improvement was significant. This is a good girl. At Heiyu's location, he had spotted a Lin Yuan tribesman from the Waterland Star. This was an aquatic race, strong in water, but much weaker on land. Not much of a threat. The creature's body was silver blue, about 5 meters tall, with well-proportioned limbs, joint flexibility surpassing humans, a 3,050 centimeters, tail fin-like structure extending from the coccyx, and golden iris eyes. What's the situation? Baigu arrived beside Heiyu while Wu Yihongcha stayed hidden nearby. This Lin Yuan seems to be infected by giant fern spores. He's not fully conscious. Closer observation confirmed it. The creature had blue blood on him clearly after fighting and was wandering erratically, causing havoc everywhere in a demented state. Just him? Yes. Seems to be a rookie unfamiliar with this area. It appeared this Lin Yuan team was a makeshift motley crew. The spores had invaded this one's body, mistaking his own team for enemies, and after a big fight, he had fled. What do we do? This is a slaughter trial. Of course we take him out. You watch the area, have Wu Yihongcha on standby. He'll handle it. Alright. Mu Hanchuan, an accident struck out of the blue. During the brief gap, when Baigu and Midnight Red Tea had left. A ferocious creature measuring 3 meters in length, its torso covered in terrifying black-red exoskeleton, suddenly charged down from above. It had 2 folded blade-like appendages that extended to 1 meter 50 in length, lashing viciously at Mu Hanchuan. Blade Cluster tribe from Longxing. Mu Hanchuan recognized the species at a glance. They were an intelligent race, but preferred to rely on their natural instincts in combat, extremely fierce. Without time to think, Mu Hanchuan raised his shield to block. Thump! Chuyu, who had been in a daze, suddenly heard a tremendous slapping sound. The next moment, Mu Hanchuan at the cave entrance was swept away by 2 blade appendages, crashing heavily into the black wall a dozen meters away, sending a thick layer of black dust scattering. After a brief stupor, Chuyu snapped out of her shock. She pressed her hand tightly over her mouth, huddled in a corner inside the cave, curling up and not daring to make a sound. From her waist, she drew her small protective axe, silently praying that Mu was unharmed. Otherwise how could she follow him? Follow to the underworld. Don't get me wrong. This axe is great equipment. In real combat it can enlarge. Her other 2 pieces of gear were defensive, a top and trousers that wrapped her entire body tightly, leaving only her head exposed, also great. If she hadn't brought an axe, she'd definitely have brought a helmet to cover her head as well. She had never participated in a trial, yet she could carry grade equipment. This meant she had more than one attribute reaching grade, meeting the stat requirements for the equipment. Very Patoan, relying entirely on money. Damn it, a sneak attack. Mu Hanchuan was a tank, not a scout. In a moment of distraction, the Blade Cluster warrior closed in and caught him off guard. Could this be the Blade Cluster's tactic to lure the tiger away from the mountain? Deliberately drawing our people away, then ambushing the camp. Crap. With the successful sneak attack, the Blade Cluster warrior danced excitedly, letting out thrilled cheers, and the next moment charged at Mu Hanchuan again. His round shield left his hand and embedded into the stone wall several meters away. He himself was not seriously hurt, but was momentarily unable to recover. Mu Hanchuan reached his left hand toward the large shield on his back, glanced around to confirm no comrades were nearby, to expose him, and decisively activated the teleport skill. Another round shield appeared, dropping into Mu Hanchuan's right hand out of thin air. He hurled it fiercely at the blade cluster warrior charging from across the tunnel. Clang. A heavy impact sound. Woo-woo. With Chu Yu's strength boost, and the inherent momentum of the teleport summon, the throw was extraordinarily powerful, causing the blade cluster warrior to howl in pain. A small crack appeared on its left forelimb. Mu Hanchuan never imagined that a tank could deliver such a powerful attack. Normally he relied on his physical toughness to endure. Joy lasted less than 2 seconds. Behind Mu Hanchuan, another blade cluster warrior appeared, even more robust. He leaped down from a height. The violent impact plus the weighty slash of his 2 blade appendages sent Mu Hanchuan flying hard. Fortunately, he managed to raise his large shield in time, blocking 50% of the force, or else he'd be in trouble. Inside the cave, Chu Yu's vision blurred. She saw something flash past the entrance again, bouncing from the left wall to the right wall, then farther away. Was that thing bouncing like a ball? Mu Hanchuan's heart was bleeding and his mouth was indeed spitting a large mouthful of blood. These damn bastards only knew sneak attacks. If they had guts, face him he'd. 2 had appeared. Would there be more? Please no. 2 I can handle, but if a whole squad shows up, how could I take it with my life? I could run, but what about the young lady? Still, I can use teleport, but it risks exposure. Only as a last resort. Hope Baigu and the others hurry back to reinforce. The injured blade cluster warrior behind charged again, vowing revenge for the throw it suffered. Mu Hanchuan wouldn't indulge it. The round shield that had flown outside the tunnel was summoned back, appearing in his right hand once more, and he hurled it at the warrior again. It was startled, again. Not daring to confront Heaton, it quickly dodged aside. Sparks and crushed stones flew everywhere as the round shield missed and struck the hard black stone wall, shattering large amounts of rock that scattered in all directions. From the front, the larger blade cluster warrior attacked. This time, instead of relying solely on brute force, it used a skill striving to eliminate the enemy quickly without prolonging the fight. Clearly visible cutting lines appeared on its 2 blade appendages, greatly enhanced in power and with tearing ability specifically designed to break armor. Mu Hanchuan crouched down, slamming his large shield heavily onto the ground. The shield fully expanded sideways, reaching 1.5 meters in height and 2 meters in width, maximizing its defensive strength. Clang! A much more violent impact erupted. This time, with full preparation, Mu Hanchuan steadied himself and held firm, though he slid 2 or 3 meters across the hard black stone surface. That blow was too fierce. His large shield wasn't in good condition. It lost 5 durability points instantly. The void armor on his body also tore open a gash, but it didn't wound his flesh. It was because it hadn't been fully repaired yet, otherwise it wouldn't have been breached. Song Hyung, just wait. When I get back, I'll have time to play with you and finish you off. The blade cluster warrior was somewhat surprised, still not dead. Among the humans it had encountered, it had never seen such strong defense. If it knew Mu Hanchuan's physique had reached a grade, it wouldn't be so puzzled. Just then Mu Hanchuan faintly heard a peculiar insect chirp coming from far away. It was Blackfeather's signal. Baigu and the others must have finished their side and were returning. With such a commotion here, they couldn't have missed that something went wrong. Mu Hanchuan, who had intended to fight Heaton, immediately changed tactics. He rushed to the cave entrance, using his fully extended large shield to block it completely, deliberately feigning weakness. They probably weren't smart enough to realize I was using military tactics right. Sure enough, seeing this, the 2 blade cluster warriors naturally thought this human was done for and intended to hold his ground. They took turns crashing into the shield, hoping to finish off the 2 inside quickly and then leave. Inside the cave, Mu Hanchuan remained composed, his face devoid of any expression, fully focused on the enemy, while Chu Yu trembled all over from fear. Just entering the trial star, and already so dangerous with that monster outside, looking so terrifying. Could Mu withstand it? Would they die here like this? She knew that the trial star was fraught with perils, yet it should not be this hazardous. They had been inside for barely an hour. From now on, she would never want to enter again. After holding firm for a minute, blocking dozens of consecutive impacts from 2 Blade Cluster tribe members, Mu Hanchuan received a chittering signal. The fastest Heiyu arrived and prepared to launch an attack. Mu Hanchuan hastily crouched down and gestured with his hand for Chu Yu to lie flat. Chu Yu had not yet grasped the exact meaning and was just about to lift her enlarged axe to help, when in the blink of an eye a gravity cannon blast descended from above, with incredible speed, arriving in an instant, striking the injured Blade Cluster tribe member that was charging toward the cave entrance. Midair, he had no way to dodge. Boom. The immense power blasted half of the body of this unprepared Blade Cluster tribe member, and also wounded another, more powerful Blade Cluster tribe member not far away. Inside the cave, Mu Hanchuan and Chu Yu were also affected, but protected by the large shield. They were not injured, only covered in black dust. One shot, one kill, taking out one of them. Heiyu appeared from above the pit, stowed the gravity cannon, and immediately pulled out his second ranged weapon, the light energy bomb. With a pop, the light energy bomb grazed the body of the remaining Blade Cluster tribe member, hitting the black ground beside him, missing. This Blade Cluster tribe member was furious, glaring hatefully at the newcomer. His body split into 3 shadows, simultaneously charging in 3 directions, 2 decoys, and 1 real, impossible to tell which was the true entity. Heiyu did not continue attacking. The light energy bomb required 10 minutes to charge a single shot with a maximum capacity of 3 charges. He had just fired one and dared not waste another. This was an F-grade ranged output weapon. As for the previously used gravity cannon, it was an A-grade weapon, the only A-grade equipment on him, requiring 3 hours to charge a single shot with immense power. Highest last piece of equipment was also an F-grade ranged weapon called Twister Bomb, which likewise required 10 minutes per shot, could not be stored, and had to wait 10 minutes after each discharge. This was Heiyu responsible for reconnaissance and ranged fire support. He had not a single speed or defense equipment, everything was dedicated to ranged weapons. After firing he would flee. If you want follow-up fire support, wait 10 minutes. He'll be back to support you in 10 minutes. Hold on. As for the skills Heiyu had learned, they were unknown. Not just him, even Baigu and Wu Yahansha would not reveal the skills they had learned. Mu Hanchuan's skills were even less likely to be disclosed to outsiders. They were top secret, not to be used unless absolutely necessary. However, it could be basically confirmed that each of them had learned at most 2 skills. Why? Because unlocking the second skill slot required reaching a grade, and beyond that, grade 1, a grade 1 is grade 1. This squad was mostly at a grade, so they could only learn 2 skills. For instance, Mu Hanchuan, who had reached a grade, now had 2 skill slots, but had only learned 1 migration. Of course, there was a way to unlock additional slots, by using skill slot item cards. Skill slots were divided into primary skill slot 1 card, intermediate skill, slot 1 card, advanced skill, slot 1 card, and ultimate skill, slot 1 card. At most 4 additional skill slots could be added, and they must be upgraded step by step from the bottom up. Only after using a primary skill slot could one use an intermediate skill slot. The price of a primary skill slot card was roughly around 1.5 million. As for intermediate and beyond, Mu Hanchuan was not clear. Anyway, he could not afford them, and had no use for them. The same applied to item slots. The slight difference was that unlocking the second item slot required reaching grade, and the third required grade. That was a pipe dream. Currently, Mu Hanchuan only had 1 item slot unlocked. He would have to wait until grade to get a second one. Baigu and the others were the same. So if one wanted to expand item slots and unleash stronger strength on the trial star, the sensible thing was to buy item slot cards. That was more practical. Mu, how is it? Mu Hanchuan ran out of the cave, spat out several mouthfuls of black dust, and after that Chuyu also ran out carrying her axe. She was even more disheveled and wretched, and on seeing the corpse and blood outside, she almost vomited. Only 2 Blade Cluster tribe members. Only these 2 attacked us. This place is unsafe, but we need to relocate. No one could guarantee that those Blade Cluster tribe members would not come back. It would be more prudent to find a different hiding spot, though this cave had been dug for nothing. Soon after, Baigu and Wu Yahansha also returned. They had dealt with that Scale Abyss tribe member. Now, looking at the corpses in the pit and the aftermath of the fierce battle, they praised their luck. Fortunately, the one left behind was Mu. Anyone else would have died or been severely injured. Blade Cluster tribe members were not easy to deal with. Any problems? Any equipment damage? Baigu asked Mu Hanchuan. No problems. Let's go relocate. The group left. Chuyu, still trembling, was helped out of the pit by Wu Yahansha. For her first time witnessing such a horrific scene, she had performed quite well. As she passed Mu, she couldn't help but glance at him carefully. Was he really fine? She had seen him sent flying twice and bleeding a lot. No wonder the team leader kept emphasizing that she must stick close to this Mu. He was really strong. Mu Hanchuan went to a corner and picked up the round shield he had been wearing. As for the summoned round shield, he did not know where it had fallen, but that was not important. As long as it was not found by his own people, he could just summon it back during battle. After running more than 20 kilometers, they found a safer place and started digging again. This time, even Wu Yahansha, who had a cleanliness obsession, came to help. They had to finish the cave before nightfall. Chuyu did not understand why they were so fixated on digging caves to hide. Couldn't they find a hiding spot in such a vast area? But she did not speak up to disturb them. Perhaps their squad had a special concealment method. Suddenly, Chuyu jumped up and dashed a few steps to Mu's side. She held back and did not scream. That would make her seem too useless. Mu Hanchuan looked over. What had scared her so much? It turned out to be a shadow-chirping spider the size of a pot lid. They were not real spiders, having only 6 legs and a different form. The name was just based on human subjective imagery. What they were really called? Who knew? It did not matter. Rushing against time, the squad finally managed to roughly dig a 15-square-meter cave before dark, and the group took shelter inside. Mu Hanchuan opened the large shield and guarded the cave entrance. The two women stayed at the innermost part. Baigu and Heiyu were not far from the entrance. Baigu was resting with his eyes closed while Heiyu took out a handful of white vegetation from his person and fiddled with it, something he had collected while scouting. Night fell, and the land outside was undergoing dramatic changes. Inside the cave it was very quiet, no one spoke. The five of them were all in good spirits. They had made ample preparations before entering, so how could they feel sleepy now? Chuyu would have liked to chat more with the squad, liven the atmosphere, and perhaps build some rapport, but they all seemed too indifferent, and she could not find an opening. What's that sound above? 2 hours later there seemed to be activity overhead, quite considerable, even perceptible underground. Chuyu looked at the others' calm expressions as if they had known what was coming. Perhaps it was not dangerous, but she could not help asking Wuya Honsha beside her. Anyway, she was not asleep, busy filing her nails. It's black liquid. It automatically condenses on the ground at night. Black droplets that dissolve everything. How it forms is inexplicable. Except for some special vegetation and creatures, everything including soil will be dissolved. There's such a thing. No wonder the environment outside was so desolate with black rocks everywhere. Before entering, Chuyu had undergone special training at home and learned a lot about the trial star, so she had some mental preparation. But everything that was happening now exceeded her imagination and were things she had not learned about. If she had not been with this squad, she might have been infected by giant fern spores as soon as she entered during the day. Even soil gets dissolved. Could it seep underground? Don't worry, these black rocks cannot be penetrated. It's very safe. I see. Now she understood why they insisted on digging caves in these underground black rock belts. You know so much. Hell, taught by our predecessors. Many died, and we gradually came to understand. Only 10 of the entire trial star had been explored. Countless pioneers had died on the path of exploration. Without them, how could later generations know where the dangers lay? The deeper the exploration, the more dangerous it became. In the future, who knew how many more from all races would be buried there? This was the asymmetry of technology and civilization. Everything was unknown to you. You could only explore bit by bit, and the cost of exploration was death. Wuya Hongsha, have you ever had teammates die inside? Of course, more than one. If you want to walk this path, you have to be prepared for that at any time. That's terrifying. Then why did you come being a girl? Bored, I guess. There's nothing fun left outside. Look how exciting it is here. She didn't quite agree. Your skill is to increase strength. Yes. Then remember to add it for us before. Okay. Heiyu seemed to have finished his work. He used stone slices to portion out some for each person and distributed them. Baigu didn't move. Mu Hanchuan took it and gulped down the small amount of viscous liquid on the stone slice to replenish his bodus moisture. As for the crushed grass residue on top, he didn't eat it since he wasn't hungry. What is this? Chuyu's eyes widened. She had just seen Mu and Heiyu eat it. Could this stuff be edible? Wuya Hansha handed a portion to Chuyu and explaining Cao, a fairly common vegetation on Shurian Star. It contains minimal liquid components, barely enough to be used as moisture. The crushed grass root bits can be eaten. They taste terrible, but can replenish a little stamina. Entering Shurian Star, aside from bringing some balanced items like clothes and masks, nothing else could be brought in, let alone food or seasoning. Therefore, anything that could keep one alive had to be consumed. Eating grass. She thought she was fine, not too hungry, so no need to eat. To survive on Shurian Star, one must adapt to everything here. We'll be staying in the Jijin wasteland for 3 days. The only thing edible here is this. You must keep yourself replenished and maintain optimal condition. The next opportunity to replenish may not come anytime soon. Who knows when an accident will strike? Their entire team hadn't brought the auxiliary item food box. Bringing it would have been foolish, a pure waste of the limited item slots. Am not hungry yet, I'll eat later. Chuyu silently placed the stone slice beside her. Just the smell was almost unbearable. Could that tiny bit of viscous liquid really replenish moisture? Can that crushed grass root really be eaten? Mu Hanchuan, who had been staring blankly at the entrance, suddenly looked outside the cave. Not far away, Heiyu also raised his head at the same time. Baigu sensed something unusual and looked over. What's wrong? There's something up above. Mu Hanchuan had just heard a sound of something hitting the ground. It was not too close and the creature was not small. Chuyu silently shrank back. Something else again. Baigu's mouth twitched involuntarily. There had never been so many incidents before. What was going on today? He walked to the cave entrance, gazing at the pitch-black night outside, feeling uneasy. He feared an accident. At this hour, finding another temporary shelter would be troublesome and too risky. Heiyu, go up and scout. Be careful. Okay. Heiyu stepped out of the cave, glanced around, and slowly crept out. He was very cautious, each step landing on the black rocks, avoiding the pools of black liquid accumulated in the mud. The others concentrated, ready for anything, expecting it to take some time. Unexpectedly, within just 15 seconds, Heiyu from above sent a chirping signal. No danger. Wuya Hongsha also came to the entrance, understanding the signal. Chuyu silently followed Wuya Hongsha, wanting to hear what they planned to do. Baigu raised 3 fingers, pointing in 3 different directions. Wuya Hongsha, and Mu Hanchuan understood instantly. Baigu followed Haiya's path to the surface. Wuya Hongsha leaped onto a black rock outside the cave, crouching there to guard the surroundings, awaiting further orders. Mu Hanchuan took down his round shield, walked out of the cave, and stood on a black rock, without moving. Chuyu stood at the entrance holding her axe, not daring to go out, yet not daring to sit back alone. They seemed to communicate without words, if she had not caught any plan. Above ground, Heiyu pointed in one direction. Baigu looked. 100 meters away, a large bird over 3 meters long lay fallen on the ground, its condition unknown. Chilean clan. This was a race with flight capabilities, their aerial combat prowess was naturally not inferior, and their ground strength was also formidable. If encountering an entire Chilean clan squad, retreat was the best option. They were too agile and too all-round. What was this now? Another corpse found. They had been ready to give up on this team trial, yet one easy target after another came to them. What's the situation? No idea. Looks like another one who didn't understand the rules here, got corroded by the black liquid, and fell from the sky. Baigu did not rush forward to check. Cautiously, he said, "Go check the surroundings." He specifically pointed to an area, the back slope, where an ambush was most likely. Heiyu nodded and moved toward that direction. They waited for a full 2 minutes, until Heiyu sent another chirping signal confirming no threats. Then Baigu acted, stepping from one black rock to another, approaching the Chilean clan creature. Up close, the Chilean clan member still had a breath left. Its body was mostly lying in a hollow filled with black liquid which was rapidly dissolving its body, a horrifying sight. Confirming no danger, Baigu walked over and cut off its head with a single stroke, granting it deliverance. "How is it?" The entire squad returned to the cave. Wuya Honsha asked about the situation. Chuyu again picked up her small axe and silently moved to the cave entrance. It was a Chilean clan member tainted by the black liquid. Its internal damage was severe, so I finished it. We've been this lucky. This was the third trial participant they had eliminated today. Perhaps among the 57 teams their ranking was now. Maybe we can compete. Rarely Heiyu spoke up, voluntarily showing that he was eager for this team trial and unwilling to give up easily. If conditions permit, it's not impossible. Wuya Honsha was not opposed. Mu Hanchuan did not voice an opinion. He glanced at Chuyu beside him. Her eyes were bright, as if she was about to tell you she agreed, though she was scared inside. Baigu was very hesitant. Having 3 kills right at the start was indeed a great situation, but he worried about accidents. An accident had already occurred when they left in the afternoon. "It's idle here anyway. Might as well go out for a walk. Maybe we can pick up more. I can stay behind and watch over." Mu Hanchuan spoke up. He could see that none of them wanted to give up, and he himself didn't want to end it like this either. Anyway, it was the 3 of them going out to take risks. He just needed to stay here and guard the young lady, quietly enjoy the fruits. If they picked up something, it was a gain, if not no loss. No psychological burden at all. Every planet and every race had different internal environments, no less complex than humans. Perhaps their information channels were not smooth. Many teams might be visiting the Jijin wasteland for the first time with no way to understand its unique nature. This was their team's huge advantage. They must seize the chaos of the first day. After today, this advantage would be gone. The 3 had been waiting for Mu's words, fearing he would be unwilling to take on too much. Now that he agreed, their mood brightened instantly. "All right, then, it's decided. Mu and Chuyu will stay behind, and the 3 of us will go out to find traces of other teams. Remember, once you find something, don't act rashly. Wait for us to arrive. We must ensure a one-hit kill." Baigu fully considered Chuyu's self-esteem. It sounded nice to say stay behind, but actually, it was Mu staying specifically to protect her. "Good. Go. If you encounter a full team, retreat immediately, without any hesitation." "Got it." "Understood. It'll boost your strength." Chuyu finally had a role to play. She hadn't performed last time, so this time she applied her support skill to all 3, boosting their strength effective for 1 hour. The boosting attributes differed for each person. Baigu, who had the highest base strength, received over 30 points of strength boost, while Wuya Honsha and Heiyu received slightly less. Very good. Baigu didn't hold back and praised her generously, providing good emotional value. The 3 left the cave, keeping close to each other, advancing in a triangular formation, gradually disappearing into the night. Mu Hanchuan sat at the cave entrance, very relaxed. They were all veterans, nothing to worry about. Under normal circumstances, the black liquid wouldn't touch them. What truly required caution were the other trial teams. "Mu, am I dragging you down?" Mu Hanchuan took the small axe from Chuyu's hand and examined it. Its quality was not low, a good axe. He tossed it back to her, then looked out into the darkness again. "Don't have any psychological burden. Remember, you are the protagonist. Even if all of us die, it has nothing to do with you, nor is it your concern. The only thing you should care about is your own safety." He really knew how to comfort people. He simply didn't consider himself or Baigu and the others as people. Chuyu was still quite happy inside. This was a quality, high-standard team her family had chosen well. She had previously thought that all trial participants were hard to get along with. "Mu, are you currently a rank?" You focus on physique, so physique, your rank, and all other attributes at Frank, right? Ah, you say so, then it is. You're amazing, reaching your rank all by yourself. I relied on my family, and now I only have 2 attributes, barely reaching Frank. It's so hard to improve. That's already impressive. Mu Hanchuan wasn't just flattering, it was truly impressive. Could he admit that only his physique was above Frank? The other 3 hadn't even reached Frank. Far worse than you. How many years have you been in the trials? I'm 21 this year. It took me 3 years of item cards to reach my current Frank. This girl is the same age as me. If it weren't for my special circumstances, and I only focused on physique, I would probably be just a little higher than her. Damn rich people. I'm a few years older than you. Still impressive. After this team trial, can I join your team again next month? You guys are all so nice. That's only because you're the sponsor. Try bringing in a deadweight. Mu, what is a solo trial like? Pretty hard. Who would have thought this seemingly quiet girl was a chatterbox? So many questions. It was 3 in the morning on the trial star. Mu Hanchuan was still accompanying the enthusiastic Chu Yu in their chat. She truly never seemed to tire. After 2 or 3 hours of trekking with nothing to show for it, the trio of Baigu, Wu Yi Hongxia, and Heiyu once again arrived at the small hill in the southeast, the same one where they had abandoned their camp. A series of chirping sounds came through, and Heiyu finally had a discovery. Baigu and Wu Yi Hongxia, who were not far away, immediately crept toward that direction. 300 meters away, the 3 regrouped. What's the situation? There's a battle on the hill. Could be an encounter or a fight over territory. With nowhere to hide in the dead of night, fighting for it was only natural. Move it. They advanced 150 meters, and now they could see clearly. On that hill, 2 teams were locked in a fierce struggle. One side, 3 humans of unknown nationality. The other 4 armored carapace from Baixing Star, their backs covered in thick shells, boasting formidable defense. Wu Yi Hongxia said, "There's a human team. In the blood trial, teams of the same race are the easiest to deal with and the most profitable, because we understand them best. If there's a chance, they might target us first. I warn you, if we strike, we must eliminate them all, no mercy." Heiyu warned his stance, clear, showing no pity for the fellow human team. His tone was cold and sharp, likely scarred by past betrayals. Survival of the fittest. This isn't a place for morality. Baigu agreed. Only Wu Yi Hongxia hesitated slightly. If the human team united, there might be a chance for better results, but who dared truly gamble on human nature? Highest words rang true. The ones who understood humans best were humans themselves. For the sake of results, nothing was off the table. Heiyu urged, "We need to decide quickly." His graviton cannon was already itching to fire. It was almost 4 o'clock when the black liquid would reach its peak, flooding many areas they had passed through, including the black rocks. They had to return swiftly. "Since we're here, we can't leave empty-handed. Move." Heiyu had been waiting for this. He was the first to act, darting to the optimal ambush spot. After 3 hours, his graviton cannon was ready again, and he could no longer hold back. Wu Yi Hongxia said no more, drawing her weapon and quietly following Baigu as they crept forward. The battle on the hill grew fiercer. The human team, now down to 3, was clearly at a disadvantage. Where their other 2 teammates had gone was anyone's guess. Their item cards were depleted and they wanted to retreat, but the enemy refused to let them go, fighting with lethal intent, determined to leave at least 1 or 2 corpses behind. Moreover, in the deep of night, the entire base of the hill was eroded by the black liquid. One misstep could mean disaster, so they dared not flee recklessly. The situation was grim. If only they hadn't chosen this hill to camp, they should have picked another spot. Inexperience was their downfall, or perhaps their captain was too young. The battle raged on for another 2 minutes. Boom. Just as the conflict reached its peak, a shell suddenly came from the direction of the hilltop, striking the center of the battlefield and exploding. In an instant, combatants from both sides were thrown into chaos, all wounded, with 2 gravely injured and incapacitated. This was the signal to strike. Baigu and Wu Yi Hongxia had already crept into the optimal positions and were waiting for Hei's successful ambush. The opportunity was perfect. In a flash, Baigu and Wu Yi Hongxia charged out simultaneously, instantly killing 1 human and 1 armored carapace. Of the 7 fighters, 2 were dead, 2 critically wounded, leaving only 3 capable of fighting. Only 1 human still standing. They'll be damned. The ambushers were their own kind. Not only did they not help, but they also attacked their own. He cursed bitterly and turned to flee. Baigu and Wu Yi Hongxia ignored him, charging at the remaining 2 armored carapace. Another group of humans. This was the end. This human team was clearly far stronger than the previous one. After a tough battle and a surprise attack, how could they hold on? Baigu charged, heat in his blade, crashing down, splitting a crack in the armored carapace's shell. An astonishingly powerful strike. The armored carapace was terrified. Such a strong attack. Ignoring Baigu's slash, he rammed back, engaging in close combat, dragging Baigu down the slope with him. Wu Yi Hongxia circled around her, steps nimble and ever-changing, effectively avoiding the enemy's frontal assaults while striking like thunder. Each blow bypassed the armored carapace's thick shell, piercing precisely into his weak points. Clean, efficient, and perfectly aimed, leaving the opponent utterly helpless, all his strength wasted. In just a few dozen seconds the battle ended. Wu Yihansha finished off her opponent first, then approached the armored carapace, critically injured by highest blast, and mercilessly ended him. Baigu was a step slower. By the time he climbed back to the hillside, only the gravely wounded human remained. Wu Yihansha looked at the last human, and him. Save me. Having gone this far, there was no room for hesitation. Baigu walked over with his blade. No, we're all humans, spare me. A single stroke fell, and the severely wounded man perished. As for the one who fled, he didn't escape either. Heiyu had secretly pursued him, launching another ambush in the darkness. 2 light energy bolts in quick succession, followed by a final one to ensure he was dead beyond all doubt. His body fell into the muddy waters, slowly dissolving in the black liquid. As his form faded, the equipment on him turned to nothingness. Equipment and items on the trial star could not be looted. Once the owner died, the gear and items they carried vanished along with them. This might be a way to maintain balance on the trial star, the most direct form of consumption. Otherwise, races would only acquire without expenditure, leading to an endless accumulation and eventual chaos. After more than a quarter of an hour, Baigu and his 2 companions returned. They had struck it rich this time, killing 7 trial participants. Combined with the previous 3, their team had eliminated 10 targets, equivalent to 2 complete teams. Even if they weren't first, they should at least be among the top positions now. Chuyu was the most excited, saying, "You guys are amazing." Mu Hanchuan hadn't expected such a huge haul either. This was quite intense. Perhaps they really had a chance to compete for the top 3, and the rewards would surely be bountiful. With this large batch of kills, we need to adjust our plan. While ensuring the team's safety, we should try to compete for the top spots. Any objections? Baigu still respected his teammates' opinions. Although he knew no one would oppose, he had to show the attitude. In a team trial, unity was the primary combat strength. I agree. Heiyu was the first to express firm support. Worth a try? Midnight Red Tea had no objections. Mu Hanchuan and Chuyu naturally couldn't disagree. They were even a bit excited. Alright, we still have 3 hours until daylight. Get some sleep, and we'll move out in 3 hours. Mu Hanchuan leaned against the cave entrance and drifted into a light sleep. Finally, he could rest a bit. Being dragged into a 3-hour conversation by Chuyu had exhausted him mentally. If he had wanted, he could have even pried out her birth date and time. Baigu, Heiyu, and Midnight Red Tea each found a spot to nap. No one paid attention to Chuyu anymore. She was still too excited to sleep. What could she do? Morning. It was only 6:30, but the sky outside was already bright, entering the brightest time of day in the Jijin wilderness. There was no sun in the sky, only a long, lingering rainbow. The black liquid accumulated on the ground quickly dissipated across the land, and the Jijin wilderness returned to its original state. From all directions, large flocks of sharp-beaked birds flew toward the Jijin wilderness. Each of them was over 3 meters tall, ferocious, and menacing. They landed on the vast expanse and frenziedly sucked at the soil that had been dissolved by the black liquid overnight. Something remained on the soil which they deeply loved. Above the cave where Mu Hanchuan and his team were hiding, several of these strange birds appeared, and one even descended into the pit. The team, having slept less than 3 hours, finished their preparations and waited silently at the cave entrance. What is this? Chuyu behind him gently tugged at Mu Hanchuan and mouthed the question. Mu Hanchuan gestured for her to be quiet. There was no time to explain now. Baigu waited for the right moment, not rushing to act. Only after several of the strange birds above had flown away did he give the signal move. Mu Hanchuan dashed out first, raising his large shield and slamming it heavily into the unsuspecting strange bird inside the pit, knocking it to the ground. The strange bird reacted quickly, letting out a sharp screech and clawing at Mu Hanchuan with its 2 talons. Notably, it also had a longer, larger claw on its tail. The 2 talons were blocked by Mu Hanchuan's shield, but the larger tail claw struck his body. However, it failed to penetrate his void armor. Baigu and Midnight Red Tea, who followed closely, struck at the right moment. One slashed at the head, the other stabbed at the chest. These strange birds had powerful defenses and astonishing vitality. It took over a dozen strikes to finally finish it off. Chuyu, carrying her large axe, pressed herself against the cave entrance, poking only her head out. She didn't dare to go out and help. Above, Heiyu called out a warning that more strange birds were coming. Indeed, several strange birds, having heard their companions' call, flew toward the pit simultaneously. The closest one immediately spotted the human standing on its dead companion's body. Could it tolerate that? It screeched and dove down. Mu Hanchuan raised his shield to meet it, showing no panic. A heavy thud. The impact was strong, but Mu Hanchuan deliberately absorbed the force and stepped back a large pace. Baigu and Midnight Red Tea, ambushed on both sides of the pit, seized the opportunity and struck the strange bird. Mu Hanchuan, who had retreated, steadied himself and charged back, slamming it heavily to the ground and pinning it with his large shield. Baigu and Midnight Red Tea stabbed wildly again, and after a while they finally succeeded in killing it. Chuyu was eager to try. It didn't seem so hard to deal with, did it? Having dispatched two so easily, she felt she could also go up and help. Above, two slightly farther strange birds flew over together. Repeating the same tactic, Bai Gu and Midnight Red Tea jumped into blind spots, leaving only Mu Hanchuan alone by the corpse's bait. These strange birds were indeed stupid. Upon seeing the corpses of their two companions, they flew into a rage and dove straight down. Mu Hanchuan didn't dare to be careless this time. While guarding with his large shield, he also took out his round shield to fend off attacks from their tail claws. Just as the two strange birds slammed into Mu Hanchuan, Bai Gu charged in with his blade, striking one on the back and chopping off half of its wing. Midnight Red Tea attacked from behind, stabbing at their sensitive spots. In the narrow pit, the three humans and two birds were in a chaotic melee. People and birds tumbling, feathers flying, fighting fiercely. Even Chuyu rushed out with her large axe, gritting her teeth and hacking. With her frank strength plus the strength assist, she was actually quite effective, cutting several gashes into the strange bird's body. Heyu never acted, keeping watch all around. Unless absolutely necessary, he wouldn't use his long-range weapon. This battle lasted a bit longer, over a minute, before they finally killed the two strange birds. Bai Gu and Mu Hanchuan began collecting the spoils, digging out the bird's eyes and tail claws if the other parts were less valuable. Midnight Red Tea tidied herself up on the side. She had just been clawed, losing a handful of hair, and her locks were scattered. She was still excited. She hadn't slept all night, but her spirits were high. Now she had participated in her first team battle, and she was thrilled beyond words. Midnight Red Tea, what race is this? And what are Mu and the others digging out? These are native creatures of the Shirlian star. Their tail claws sell for 80,000, and their eyes for 50,000. The other parts aren't worth much. Chuyu, like a naive girl, was astonished. How can we take these back to sell for money? Of course. We can't bring things from our planet to the Shirlian star, but anything we obtain on the Shirlian star can be brought back. Otherwise, how do you think those reagents, medicine formulas, and tech blueprints appeared on the market? They were all obtained through exploration on the Shirlian star, and the raw materials also have to be found here. Chuyu understood. So the eyes and claws of these strange birds are one kind of raw material. Yes, their eyes are a raw material for a certain reagent, and large companies buy them year-round. The claws can be used to make weapons or ground into powder and sold to pharmaceutical companies as a raw material for body-enhancing drugs. Oh, how amazing. So we just made 500,000 from killing 4 of them. That's right. But it's not your share. It sounded simple, but Chuyu knew that on her own, she could never kill even one. She had chopped many times and only managed to cut a few gashes, which showed how strong their defenses were. Let's move. With the spoils gathered, the team set off. The sheer number of aberrant birds made the outside perilous, but it also presented immense opportunities. These aberrant birds would attack not only them, but all races indiscriminately. As long as they hid well enough, there was bound to be a chance to seize the spoils. 57 teams, even after losing 10 yesterday, still left 47. Many of them would inevitably fall under the assault of these aberrant birds. Whether it was scavenging the carcasses of the aberrant birds or encountering solitary trial participants, it would be a lucrative gain. If they happened upon a mutual destruction scenario, it would be an absolute jackpot. Heyu was still leading the way, pausing after every stretch of reconnaissance. Bai Gu and the others followed a short distance behind. Once they confirmed no aberrant birds ahead, they would dash forward. The pace was neither fast nor slow, prioritizing stability above all. The terrain of the Silent Ember wasteland was treacherous, with hardly a single flat patch. Everywhere were winding hillocks, deep ravines, or clusters of black boulders, perfect for concealment. This was the main reason they dared to venture out in search of opportunities, otherwise they would be overwhelmed by swarms of aberrant birds. Advancing slowly like this for over an hour, they managed to kill 3 more solitary aberrant birds through teamwork, but unfortunately they encountered no trial teams. Where did all the other teams go? I haven't seen a single one, Chuyu asked, shamelessly seeking knowledge. At 8 o'clock, these aberrant birds will disperse and return to their nests. That's when the other teams will emerge. Midnight Tea casually explained. No one was foolish. With such a massive flock of aberrant birds, anyone who recklessly ran out would be asking for trouble. Most likely they were all lying low like this team, picking off lone aberrant birds. Only a quarter of an hour left. Speed up, Bai Gu said, unwilling to return empty-handed. All right. With the aberrant bird flock about to leave, Heyu had fewer concerns and greatly accelerated their movement. After another 10 minutes of searching, the team finally made their first discovery. There. Heyu pointed, hiding behind a large rock. They all looked and saw a Zelta tribesman 4 meters tall lying on the ground, already incapacitated. 3 aberrant birds surrounded him, frenziedly devouring his flesh. He doesn't seem completely dead yet. Heyu, with the sharpest perception, observed closely. Bai Gu said, shoot him. Put him out of his misery. All right. Drawing his gun, aiming and firing in one smooth motion. From over 500 meters away, a light energy bullet struck the Zelta tribesman, who was not yet fully dead. The kill was secured, and his count rose to 11. After shooting, they immediately fled, all of them running together. Chiyu was stunned as she had thought they would also kill those aberrant birds, but instead they were running away. She followed closely, exerting every ounce of her strength. The flock of aberrant birds abandoned their prey and shrieked as they pursued, moving incredibly fast. But the fleeing group was faster, having already crested the slope on the other side and hidden among 3 large boulders. Having lost track of them, the aberrant birds squawked indignantly for a while before flying away in unison. One of them carried off the Zelta tribesman's corpse. Chiyu pressed close to Mu Hanchuan, her chest heaving violently as she leaned against his left arm. She had never run so fast in her life. If only she had known they were going to run, she would have started earlier. Mu Hanchuan silently shifted to one side, avoiding that softness, yet couldn't help but glance. Bound so tightly, it was still so prominent. He wasn't a lecher, but a man's eyes had an automatic locking function, naturally drawn to certain places. They had a mind of their own, uncontrollable. No one spoke. They waited in silence. Only Chiyu was extremely nervous, leaning back toward Mu. Are they coming after us? This time Mu Hanchuan had nowhere to dodge. Any further retreat would be too obvious. Don't worry, we're safe. They're gone, Baigu comforted her. Chiyu's performance was excellent and he was very satisfied, much more obedient than the previous clients they had taken. That's good, that's good. There seems to be something happening on the other side of the mountain. Everyone's attention was fixed on the aberrant birds ahead. Being caught up with would be troublesome and could attract more birds. Only Midnight Tea noticed some commotion on the backside of the mountain behind them. Baigu listened carefully, but heard nothing. He looked at Heiyu, whose perception was the sharpest. Heiyu frowned slightly. It does seem like something's going on. Then there really was something. Baigu said, wait one more minute, then let's go check. No one objected. Chiyu was less enthusiastic. It was so far, and they would have to run again. They had already been running for over an hour this morning. Only after the 3 aberrant birds had flown far away, completely out of sight, did the 5 cautiously emerge and turned ahead toward the large mountain behind them. It was quite a distance, and they would have to climb to the top to see what was happening on the other side. Just a few hundred meters into their run, another flock of aberrant birds flew overhead, 5 of them. They were in a hurry, also heading toward the mountain. The group quickly concealed themselves, but inwardly they were overjoyed. Something was definitely going on. There must be a fierce battle over there, and they might be able to pick up some spoils. Quick, speed up. Hey, you go ahead and scout the situation. All right. The group began to sprint. Mu Hanchuan lagged behind, not because he was slow, but because he had Chiyu hanging on his arm. She was scared. She was almost out of breath, clutching him tightly, afraid of being left behind. After about 3 minutes of running, Heiyu arrived first and found a good hiding spot. By the 4th minute, Baigu and Midnight Tea caught up. Mu Hanchuan and Chiyu only arrived at the 5th minute. The view suddenly opened up, and they could now see clearly what was happening on this side of the mountain. Below was a steep stretch of jagged rocks. Above, 4 blazing feather tribe members were locked in a fierce battle with over 20 aberrant birds. The 2 sides swooped and collided in the sky, flesh and blood flying, screeching at each other. The fight, intensely brutal. Blazing feather tribe again. Perhaps the one that had fallen last night, and they had scavenged, belonged to this team. How can we steal kills in this situation? Of course they couldn't. That would be asking for trouble. They weren't stupid. Wait. The blazing feather tribe team is about to collapse. They'll definitely flee. Well, follow behind and look for an opportunity to ambush. Seemed like the only option. The 4 were in good condition, fully alert. Only Chiyu was already exhausted, lying beside Mu Hanchuan. She tugged at his sleeve and gasped. When we need to run, tell me first so I can start running ahead. Mu Hanchuan was helpless. In this state, how could she run? Normally he could run 10 times this distance without panting, but with her dragging him along, he was getting tired. He might as well carry her next time. Just don't drag him. The 2 sides bloodied each other for several more minutes. The blazing feather tribe left 2 corpses behind and finally began to flee, but not on the ground. Through the air. What was that? How could they pursue? The aberrant birds were vengeful, refusing to let go even when reduced to fewer than 10. The team members exchanged glances. The 2 blazing feather tribe corpses below were definitely dead, torn to shreds. However, there were still over a dozen aberrant bird carcasses. Should they scavenge the corpses or continue the chase? Everyone looked at Baigu. Of course. Baigu was unwilling to give up on the 2 severely wounded blazing feather tribe members. Hey, you can keep up. Leave marks along the way. The rest of us will collect these corpses and follow. Understood. Just what he wanted. Heiyu was the most aggressive and least willing to give up. He chased after them alone. Get to work. Be quick. All right. Chiyu was delighted. Finally a break. Baigu, Midnight Tea, and Mu jumped down the slope and began collecting the eyes and tail claws of the aberrant birds. There were 14 in total, worth over $1 million. They couldn't bear to abandon them. It was free money. There were also the blazing feather tribe's feathers, even more valuable. Only the softest, most exquisite, and most splendid dozen or so were high-end luxury items used for decorating clothing or hats. The one they had scavenged last time had its wings completely dissolved, so they got nothing. Chiyu stuck to Mu like a leech, following closely. If not for the restraint of a young lady, she would have lain down on his back to rest. This was a trial planet where danger could lurk anywhere. They dared not leave her alone to rest, so they insisted she stay close. Mu, are we going to chase far? Yeah, it probably won't be too close. We might need to pursue for several hours. Along the way, they also had to watch out for other teams. No matter how careful they were, a direct encounter could happen at any time. It wouldn't be easy. Chiyu felt. She might not be up to it. Mu, if I can't run any more on the road, will you abandon me? Mu Hanchuan gave her a speechless look. Were you thinking too much? You still haven't figured out your position. You're the core of this team. They could abandon me, but not you. They'll carry. Oh, that's great. Hearing you say that puts my mind at ease. Chiyu broke into a smile, and the pressure suddenly lessened. Why didn't you offer earlier? You knew I was struggling. You could just pick me up without asking for my opinion. They were very fast. Within 3 minutes, they had finished collecting, raking in over 1 million, all free. Let's go. Follow him. Then Baigu glanced at Chiyu. Can you hold on? No problem. Chiyu pointed at Mu, her tone firm. As long as he can hold on, I can hold on. After all, if she couldn't, he would carry her. So indeed, if he could endure, she could too. No mistake. Mu Hanchuan felt a bit melancholic. Fortunately, she was a girl, not too heavy and not unpleasant. If it were a guy, he would rather give up this pursuit. The words were clearly ambiguous. Baigu and Midnight Tea deliberately glanced at Mu, but said nothing. Good. Keep an eye on the surroundings along the way. All right. Got it. The usual formation: Baigu in front, Midnight Tea in the back, Mu and Chiyu in the middle. They began to advance, following the marks left by Heiyu.